Please, we got a motion to move ARPA after Barry Dunn. Is there a second for that motion?
Well, I think the employee recognition ahead of Barry Dunn. Okay.
All right, all right. All right, so we have a motion. I don't have a second yet, I think, to move. Okay, we have a second now. All right. All right. All in favor of those amendments signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. All in favor of the amended agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposing, same sign. All right, we have an agenda. Thank you. Let me make a note here. Okay. All right, the next regularly scheduled meetings are listed on the agenda. Now moving to public participation. If there are members of the public that wish to address the board tonight, there are slips over there. You can still bring those to the chair. The first slip I have is Angie Patton.
Good evening. My name is Angie Patton. I'm the Chief Deputy in the County Clerk's Office. I always really enjoy coming here and talking to you all when I'm not asking for anything and it's something fun and positive. I'm here to acknowledge Matt Cross on the occasion of his 5-year anniversary at the county and at the County Clerk's Office. Matt was the first hire I made in my role as Chief Deputy. This is a decision the office has never regretted. Matt is a senior election specialist and handles distribution of election equipment and helps with lots and lots of other election tasks. Matt has built relationships with township supervisors as it relates to their role in helping us get equipment distributed before the election. They know Matt, and they know he's super reliable and trustworthy, and more importantly, helpful. Matt also does significant work on helping to advise on polling locations. Matt is also your main clerk for the county board regular meetings. He is always here for the meetings and understands absolutely the importance of accurate minutes. Matt has been in this role since he started. Matt helps us get organized and helps document and create infrastructure within elections, which we continue to use and he continues to improve on. Matt is a trusted colleague by the office team and admin. Beyond all of his professional achievements, Matt is kind and funny. I'm usually greeted most mornings by Matt yelling, "Yo, Angela!" outside my office. This is a movie reference to Rocky, for those of you too young enough to know what I'm talking about. He often talks about movies, music, and baseball, which everyone appreciates. Matt likes to listen to ska music, but not everybody appreciates that. Matt is one of a kind, and we are so proud and happy to have him as part of our team. Mr. Cross, thank you for all you do, for helping me stay sane, for each election cycle, and for all of the hard and professional work you do. And last but not least, for all the cigarettes you've let me bum, and for all the ones we've shared together. Here's to you, Matt. We love you. Yes. Absolutely. I would also like to, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Michelle Jett's 5-year anniversary as well, so congratulations to you.
All right, next is Benjamin Beaupre.
Hello, everybody. My name is Benjamin Beaupre. You probably know me from a bunch of different organizations, but tonight I'm just speaking on my own behalf. Last month, there was a group that came in here and read off a potential resolution for auditing the election. They went by the name United Sovereign Americans, and some of the claims they made raised some red flags for me. I looked them up, and you can, if you got access to the various newspapers at the library, you can see they've kind of wreaked some havoc from coast to coast, from You can read about them from the LA Times to the Baltimore Sun. They're usually described as part of a cottage industry of far-right election deniers. And while they kind of pitch an idea that they're trying to rebuild faith in our election system, almost everything that they put out is done to undermine it and set up litigation to throw sand in the gears for actual elections processes. So, you know, we have our own problems with election concerns and whatnot. We usually do a pretty good job here between the Democrats and the Republicans being reasonably suspicious of the other team when they're running things, and, you know, being concerned if, you know, something's done too early, not done by process, things like that. That's the good, healthy kind of democracy where parties actually can kind of play a role keeping each other in check, especially since we tend to not check our own team so much as we should probably. So I'd probably stick with making sure our elections are secure and fair and keeping an eye out on the other side when, you know, they have the clerk's office. I probably wouldn't give much credit to a group that just seems to be dragging litigation across the country and, you know, just getting people into all sorts of lawsuits and nonsense. I don't think the county needs any more drama. It has enough. So I'd look them up. If you don't believe me, they have a record, and it's not good. It's full of like 2,000 mules, disinformation, nonsense, and a bunch of people running it from the Stop the Steal weirdness from a couple years back. So check them out, but I wouldn't give them too much credence. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is Janice Walker.
Good evening, board and community. I'm simply here tonight to invite the community and the board to an event that Families of Resilience, which is a program through First Followers, will be holding on July 24th, and it will be from 6 until 8:30 in the evening. It's a Wednesday. It's next Wednesday, and we will be at the Champaign Public Library in Room B. And what we are going to do is a panel discussion, and basically it is about, have you or a loved one been impacted by incarceration? And if so, join us in the discussion of the post-incarceration experience and its impact on those returning and those who love them. And so please join us for food and drink and community and have some deep discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next one up is Lynn Canfield.
Hi. I'm Lynn Canfield. I'm the director of the Mental Health Board and the Developmental Disabilities Board. And this, what I want to read to you, has nothing to do with your meeting today. I'm sorry. It's just something that I've been working on for a while because it really caught my attention as we began a community health needs assessment. And I'll just read it to you and you'll know why. This is regarding ARPA funding, if any ever comes back to you, to expand paratransit services. During your June 11, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting, your Champaign County Older Adults Needs Assessment offered data on transportation needs of the growing population of older residents. We are aware of similar needs among other groups, including people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and complex medical needs. If ARPA funds become available for reallocation, expansion of current paratransit services may be an appropriate response to these findings. So then the rest of these are data points to kind of go backwards in time, and I do have evidence even further back in time, but I didn't include it because I was trying to keep this on one page. So first, at the late May launch of our collaborative community health needs assessment, we received public input just during an open discussion regarding transportation needs of people with disabilities and complex medical conditions. I have attached to my note to y'all 3 letters from people. One of these people was at that meeting and brought this to my attention. These are 3 agency directors. I sought input from another person who's a well-known disability advocate, but she was on vacation, so good for her. So those letters talk about how the current public transportation options might be expanded or improved to better meet the needs of the most isolated and excluded residents. Then on page 2 of the DD Board's funding priorities for PY 2025, which is the current period, we noted data from July 2023 showing transportation as the second highest unmet need among Illinoisans with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It was also frequently noted in state data from August of 2022, and that's in the priorities document from the year before. The 2022 Champaign County Community Health Needs Assessment shows lack of transportation as a barrier to medical, dental, and counseling services. This is page 27 to 29 and explains transportation network as a measure of the adequacy of the transportation network to facilitate access to care. Key risk influencers include access and proximity to resources, while survey data indicate transportation was not a leading cause of inaccessibility. For Champaign County, 9% of the population is at elevated risk for transportation network, and this is higher than the state average of 6%. So then going back to 2021, our own community needs assessment, this was done only on behalf of our boards. It didn't include other entities. It points to transportation needs on several pages, 15, 18, and 20. And then there are secondary data on pages 33 regarding the state assessment, and then 35 regarding county assessment. Individual survey results included all kinds of mentions of transportation services and how they could be improved. And that's a really long appendix in that needs assessment report. These are, I've shared this letter, and these are links in the document. If you ever get to the point where you have money to reallocate, there's a whole bunch of evidence. So then my final point is that none of these recent findings surprised us, because transportation has risen to the top of assessments of unmet needs for many years. There's a posted board packet from 2011 showing that per the state's database, Champaign County residents with developmental disabilities sought help in this area more than any other type of support. And so anyway, that's it. I have maybe 30 seconds left. Just like totally unrelated to this, I've also seen a really interesting report from the county health rankings and roadmaps that says that civic engagement, including voter turnout, is positively correlated with health outcomes. So it's really nice that you have so many people participating today. This is good for all of our health. Okay, bye.
Lynn, you were really good. You had 35.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Concludes public comment. Moving on, communications. Do members of the board have communications? Ms. Carter.
Good evening, Champaign County Board members. I wanted to update the board on the meeting scheduled on 7/15 with the State's Attorney's Office. Mr. Matt Banich, Vice Chair Locke, Ms. Lorraine Colward, Executive Steve Summers, and Michelle Jett. DEIA Plus Task Force meeting was scheduled 2 days prior to the meeting date, and Chair Carter notified Michelle Jett she couldn't attend because of prior obligations. The original email sent to Chair Carter, Leah Taylor, and Emily Rodriguez sat for 2 weeks with no reply from anyone but Chair Carter. Leah Taylor responded later and said she responded to Michelle Jett with her availability because she's the one that makes the schedule. The information was never passed on to Chair Carter, nor any notes taken from that meeting on June the 27th. For whatever reason, the Democratic Caucus Chair and Chair of Justice and Social Services, Leah Taylor, didn't respond to the email thread, but instead chose to communicate with Michelle Jett. I never got any communications. Michelle's jet salary is $97,000 per year and is paid for through tax dollars. She is purposely choosing not to communicate with Chair Carter. There was another meeting scheduled by Michelle Jett with the Advocates for Age and Care on June 6th. That Michelle Jett knew I had prior obligations with the city of Champaign. A month prior, I had communicated with Michelle Jett and Executive Summers, June 6th and 7th, I would not be available. In February, when I became chair, I let both know my days of availability each week is on Mondays and Tuesdays. Both of those meetings were scheduled on Thursdays. Mr. Banich from the State's Attorney's Office mentioned a clash of personalities and lack of communication being our source of problems here on the board, and I totally agree. I'm not the one choosing not to communicate with them. So I've missed 3 meetings since I became chair of Champaign County Board. One was because of a medical emergency involving my mom. The other 2 meetings I missed solely because of Michelle Jett's scheduling and lack of communication. Executive Summers sent an email to me and 7 other board members on June the 26th stating I need to let him know a week in advance upon scheduling a meeting to speak with him. He's requesting a prior notice, but I'm not given the same respect when they're scheduling meetings. I will be voting no for resolution number 2024-178, eliminating the elected auditor's position to be placed on the November 5th, 2024 general election ballot. In this situation, I can't overlook the bullying campaign and the decisions Executive Summers and his staff have chosen to not work with our current elected auditor. Definitely a clash of personalities. We need our auditor to be independent, and we need this position to stay an elected position and not appointed. I will also be voting no for the adoption of resolution number 2024-177, establishing a DEIA plus diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility task force for the following reasons. Chair Carter wasn't a part of the meeting to discuss goals, plans, or members. The reason why it's being requested as a subcommittee is to relinquish Chair Carter's rights to assemble and appoint members to special committees. Chair Carter would like to appoint the following county board members to serve on the DEIA plus special committee. Jamala Rogers, Chair. Don Owens, Vice Chair. Lorraine Cowart, Carolyn Greer, Brett Pugh, Jeff Wilson, Mike Smith, Aaron Esri, and Ed Sexton. My community participation list includes Chandra Somerville, the first African-American president of Champaign Rotary Club. Minnie Pearson, president of the Champaign County NAACP or a representative from the NAACP. Mr. Delitzo, Regional Planning Commission CEO. Rachel Joy, City of Champaign Equity and Engagement Director. Janelle Gomez, City of Champaign Chief Equity Officer.
Point of order.
Patrick Thompson.
Mr. Executive, point of order.
Patrick Thompson,
This is dealing with an item later in the meeting.
General
And this seems
Contractor.
to be an amendment to
Chair
proposed
Carter.
items.
Chair
Let her
Carter
continue. She'll
would
have to
like to
amend.
invite anyone interested with serving on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Accessibility Special Committee. My goal is to meet with the board members first to brainstorm together and open for suggestions to add to our community participants. This process has been rushed, and it shows. I don't agree with every suggestion put forth by Leah Taylor and Emily Rodriguez. Please note, the state's attorney's office agreed it could take months to build out the framework, assemble, and move forward with the DEIA Special Committee implementations, unlike the suggested timeline of 5 months. I would like to propose a timeline of at least 12 months. Almost all the names, not all, that I've mentioned, I have personally discussed DEIA intentions. Executive Summers mentioned on 7/15, they haven't discussed interest with their list of suggested participants. Thank you, and that is all I have for communications.
Jenny Lockshin, you're next.
Just a periodic reminder to the board, I know it's been said before, but please use your microphones when you vote, when you speak, anything that you address the board for in a meeting. I went back and watched an older meeting last week and found that I couldn't hear the vote because even though we can hear it in the room, that's not going to get picked up on the recording, and that's an accessibility issue for anybody who's watching at home. And just kind of a housekeeping issue for us if we go back to refer to old meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Don, were you next? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Executive. I'm incredibly frustrated, irritated, and disappointed that I have to make this statement again. On May 14th, I made a statement about my disappointment and displeasure with the University of Illinois' handling of the peaceful protest on April 26th. Well, this week we learned that Julia Ritz's office has charged several more of the protesters who were at that event. This has taken weeks, actually months, of our law enforcement and our state's attorney's time to press charges against students, some as young as 18 years old, community members who were protesting peacefully until the police showed up and attacked the crowd. I am so frustrated by the fact that we are still dealing with that incident when we're watching cities and communities across the country declare ceasefire resolutions, divest from the Israeli military machine, and try to make meaningful steps in solving the genocide that is happening in Palestine. And instead, our taxpayer dollars are going to pressing charges against students for a peaceful protest from 3 months ago.
No, this is, Julia. I'm fine at another point maybe in the agenda, but not right now, Julia. No, this is member communication.
I understood. This is my time to make my statement. And I'm frustrated. I don't want to live in a community where we don't have the right to practice First Amendment rights of free speech, of assembly, freedom from and of and for religion. I don't want to live in a community where my social media will be scrubbed, trying to match my social media face with security footage from the U of I campus, because that was actually reported in the DI. That's how they're getting people. Imagine the amount of time that takes. Imagine the world in which we live, where Big Brother truly is watching you. That's not the community I want to live in. And that's not what I want to be funding with my taxpayer dollars.
Thank you. Ms. Locke.
Hi, everyone. This is a different tone than you're used to from me. I'm disgusted. Earlier this week, Board Member Rodriguez, who like half the board is currently up for election, received communication from her landlord that George Danos made contact using his private Comcast email address. I'll let his words speak for themselves. Dear landlord, can you ascertain whether tenant Emily Rodriguez, last known to reside at address, continues to be a current paid-up tenant in good standing? I'm auditing her residential qualifications to represent the Champaign County Board District 8. Thank you for your consideration. Best regards, George Danos, CPA, Champaign County Auditor. Then he also included his Brookings address, his office phone and extension, the office fax number, and his link to the county website. So bear with me, everyone in this room, while we examine for the public watching and in the crowd, once again, how very inappropriate Mr. Danos's actions are. Like many board members, Ms. Rodriguez publicly lists her mailing address as the Brookings Administration Building. She does not make her home address available to the general public. And yet, Mr. Danos somehow obtained it in order to invade her privacy by contacting her landlord. The irony is that he, while using his personal email, still listed his address here at Brookings. He still listed his Brookings phone number and the county website. He did not offer his personal cell phone number. He's entitled to privacy. Obviously, she's less than. She doesn't deserve the same. He then weaponized his title to seek information, not just about Ms. Rodriguez, if she resides there, she does, but also whether if she is paid up on her rent. In what world are the minutiae of her personal or financial dealings relevant to her qualifications to serve? According to statute, because you know I'm going to statute, specifically 55 ILCS 5, section 2-3015, quote, in counties with a population of 3 million or less, no person is eligible to hold the office of county board member unless he or she is a legal voter and has been a resident of the county for at least 1 year next preceding the election. Nothing, and I mean nothing, in the law requires that any one of us must provide financial documentation of creditworthiness, just that we're registered voters and that we reside in the county for at least 1 year. That's according to the statute. This request is also outside of any authority granted to an elected auditor by statute or professional norms. He knows this. That's why he used his private, not county email address. But knowing that a landlord would never share that kind of information with anybody, Mr. Danos invoked his county-specific title to more effectively invade Ms. Rodriguez's privacy in his search for political ammunition. He gussied it up by calling it an audit, but merely calling it that doesn't make it so. I could call this paper a divorce decree. And I could highlight that I'm Jennifer Locke, Juris Doctorate, Esquire. I could list that I've been admitted to the bar in Pennsylvania, Illinois, Florida, and Georgia, respectively. That would not change the fact that this is a county board packet, not a divorce decree, just because I said so. Similarly, Mr. Danos's actions are not in furtherance of an audit merely because he says so and lists a credential. If Mr. Danos legitimately believes, as he's posted all over social media this afternoon, that Ms. Rodriguez is not a resident of District 8, there are remedies that lie in the clerk's office and the courts. The remedy is not to misuse a government title to trick a private individual into believing that he has authority to obtain the personal or financial information he seeks to use against Ms. Rodriguez. Mr. Danos knows he's wrong. That's why he attempted to obscure his actions when asked directly by a party official. Just today, Mr. Danos advised a member of the County Democratic Party that, quote, I never said I was auditing her residence. Obviously, that's untrue. We have the email where he uses that exact wording. Once again, he'll dig down to the center of the earth before admitting to his own wrong actions. He can call this an audit if he wants. But is he contacting everyone's landlord or mortgage lender? No, he's not. So why Ms. Rodriguez? He can say it's because she's missed several meetings. But so have many of us in attendance and not in attendance tonight. So why her? Why is she the only one? Because Ms. Rodriguez is the public face of the effort to protect staff members in a potentially hostile work environment, because Ms. Rodriguez, as chair of the Labor Committee, is the face of the censure effort. We need to call Mr. Danos's deceptive fishing expedition exactly what it is. It's politically motivated retaliation and intimidation of a vocal critic. This board needs to draw a line in the sand, another line in the sand. Once again, instead of doing his actual job, Mr. Danos has taken advantage of his elected position on the county's payroll to perform actions that benefit Mr. Danos and Mr. Danos's ego. Misusing his governmental title to invade the privacy of another is unacceptable. Attempting to obtain private, financial, non-political information to silence and retaliate against a vocal critic is abusive. This behavior is repugnant, and we cannot allow it to continue.
Eric?
I think other people had hands up before me, so.
Sorry, you're up.
Okay, that's fine. I have three things. I will keep them brief because other people want to speak. The first, it's that time of the year, and I think Aaron will tell us the same thing, anybody else. Who drives out in rural Champaign County or any other rural place? The corn is high, the intersections are often unmarked, and we had a terrible tragedy just recently that dealt with that. Stop, look at the intersections. Not everybody heeds stop signs in the country. As a former blaster of the stop signs, I can attest to that. So please be careful. Don't get killed. Don't kill somebody else. Second thing, we have a lot of professional working people here in Champaign County who do their jobs all week long, 40 hours a week. And we have board members that sometimes want to ask questions, long lists of questions, or detailed questions. The time to do that is any time during the week with proper notice. I'm sure you can meet with anybody. We do it, well, I know many people who do it with John Hall, many people who do it with the clerk's office. The wrong time to do that is to send something the day of a meeting and want to have a lot of questions answered. You can do this stuff offline of meetings. So tonight, when we get to some agenda items, I don't want to listen to a long list of questions from things that could have been answered before this meeting. You should know your stuff if you have questions about what's going on in a particular office here at the county. These people are here all week. We're just here tonight. So do it while they're here during the week, during the day, and let's keep these meetings as focused as possible. The third thing is, I too find myself in a dilemma. I was witness to a day-long peaceful protest on the corner by the alma mater of students who were expressing their opinion. It got closer and closer to our great event, the 5K, and the day before our Illini Marathon. I'm not sure what decision process went with the U of I and then the calling in of other law enforcement. I'm not sure who made the decision to move in on the protest. In the end, I think mistakes were made. I think that some people were embarrassed. I agree that we send kids to the U of I to learn to express themselves, to learn to question things, to learn to demand things they think aren't right, and people should be free to do that. I think that there's so much going on in the county, so many things with the limited budget we have, both in all the offices, including the state's attorney's office, that to go after these kids, in the end, it all broke up reasonably peacefully with some agreements. By 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, unfortunately, the 5K was canceled, but it was made up. It didn't have to be canceled. That was going on from early in the morning. I passed it myself 10 times or so. I work on different buildings on campus. The buses were moving, the street was moving, people were going to class, everything was fine. And then, ironically, an encampment was established on the quad and allowed to be there for quite a long time afterwards, and broke itself up because, well, it was graduation. It was the end of the school year, and whether that reconvenes or not. So the budget stuff is coming up soon. I don't want to be a position where I'm thinking about voting on budgets that fund things with our limited resources in the county to go forward with prosecuting students who, in the end, were peacefully protesting. Yes, there was potential, maybe, for something to happen, but nothing happened. There was far too many police officers there for anything really to happen. They could have maintained a perimeter. They could have done different things. And I'm going to find myself in a position where I'm not sure I can be a party to, determining the budget for the use of county resources and tax dollars to do things that I don't think are the best decisions or the things most in need. We have so many other things in need. We heard it tonight in the meeting. So I share your thoughts, Don.
Ms. Furtado.
I have two public comments. I was actually not going to do this first one. I want to echo some of the stuff that Don and Eric just said. This isn't abstract for me. These are my students. I teach on campus. These are my students that I teach every day. The quote in the paper about the facility and services worker that was used to weaponize something that never happened is a member of my husband's union. It's not okay. And that's all I'm going to say about that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is this. I say this, I've missed meetings lately. I've been dealing with some house stuff, and some work stuff. I've missed meetings. Never, in any of the times that I've missed meetings or had to have help filing my election petitions because I was busy, has the chair or the auditor asked me essentially for my papers. I say this all the time. I'm an historian. And I study race and ethnicity. I've taught classes on immigration and on labor and on U.S. history. And what I see a lot is that when it comes to our Latino population, they are frequently excluded from spaces, told they are ineligible in spaces based on documentation. And sometimes this exclusion is explicit, and sometimes this exclusion is implicit. It's under the ground. It's insidious. And I can't understand why my seatmate is asked questions about if she lives in my district, unless it's because of her last name. I've missed meetings. I'm going to tell you, this is what I know. When I walk around our district and I knock on doors to get myself elected, the first thing they ask me is, wait, you're not replacing Emily Rodriguez, are you? And I'm like, no, there's two of us. And they look at me like, are you sure? And I'm like, I promise. And then they ask me 6 more times, and then they're like, all right, I guess I'll sign your petition. But if I find out you're replacing Emily, we're going to have a problem. I know that you come to this board with passion about things that you believe in, that you serve on the opioid committee, that you care about working people, and are the best chair of the labor committee, no offense, Steve, that I think we've ever had. I know you come prepared for things. I know you believe deeply in racial justice, and that's why you're serving on Clerk Ammon's task force about restrictive covenants. I know I'm lucky that you're my seatmate. I know that it is abhorrent that anyone in authority would ask you to show your papers. And I know that you are eligible to be in this space and to speak up, and I'm glad that you do.
Ms. Taylor.
So, Ms. Locke already read the email from George Danos into the record. I'm going to read the other email into the record right now. This is dated February 12th, 3 days before George Danos's. It is from Samantha Carter. What? July. I'm sorry. I don't know where I am. That was just, Stephanie was very powerful. I'm like super moved. So it's from Friday, July 12th. And I'm just going to read the highlighted part into the record. It is from Chair Carter to Ms. Rodriguez. She says, Chair Carter says, I'm also in the process of verifying your residency. Can you provide proof of residency to the full board, a signed lease or utility bill? Members of the board are concerned about your ability to be present for the DEIA task force. Just want to make sure you're still a resident of Champaign County. Thank you. Best regards, Samantha Carter. When Ms. Rodriguez reached out to me Friday with that email, I was shocked at both the gross overreach and frankly racist demands for what amounts to our sole Latina members' papers. The board chair is not above the board. She does not get to make demands of the board. We do not have to prove our qualifications at her whims. We are all peers, due equal respect, and we have an equal voice. The board chair is not our boss, which is why the board rules are threaded through with the line, with the advice and consent of the board. Monday, it was obvious that this was a synchronized and coordinated attack by both Chair Carter and Auditor Danos when he emailed Member Rodriguez's landlord, using officious language as well as signing it as the Champaign County Auditor. He had the audacity to invade her privacy and asked her landlord if she was current on her rent and stated that, quote, he was auditing her residential qualifications. We've all looked at the statutes in recent months. Auditing board members' private financials and current living arrangements is not in the job description. I can't let this bullying of a board member go unremarked. This is absolutely retaliation and harassment for the censure of the auditor and refusing to obey the whims of the board chair. It violates the county's policy against discrimination, harassment, and sexual misconduct, which also applies to elected officials, not just employees. With this latest episode in a long line of the auditor not understanding ethics, his role, or his duties, I call on him to resign his position. Despite consulting with the state's attorney's office multiple times and extensive mentoring by various board members since February, Chair Carter persists in misunderstanding the role of the board chair. I encourage her to resign as chair until she deepens her understanding of the role and its place on the board. Thank you.
Jen, go ahead.
I'm only here for a few more months. During my time on the board, I've met some of the best, smartest, hardest working people I've ever known. And I've also felt real grief when learning the real character of some of the people I used to really admire. I'm proud of the work we have done in my time on the board, especially with ARPA money, on lifting up some of our most vulnerable constituents. I've seen so many of our members use their different skill and knowledge sets to make this amazing work happen in concert with other community agencies. Small business loans, community violence prevention, broadband, water infrastructure, and housing are just some of the ways we've spent $41 million. In the past months, we've been scolded repeatedly as a board for bullying, getting in others' faces, name-calling, and disrespect. But there has only been one board member I've seen doing that. Watch the March 21st meeting of the whole and see our chair both physically and verbally intimidate other board members, attack the character of others at this table, name call, and threaten other members. Further, I know of only one board member who's made county staff members cry, Only one county board member is, with the help of the county auditor, demanding our only Latina member prove her credentials. If that's not bullying behavior, I don't know what is. As one of our latest public speakers said, everyone should be treated with dignity and respect by our elected officials, and I agree. And no matter how much time anyone spends projecting their own actions, this video doesn't lie, and neither do the emails.
Brett?
Thank you. Let's go back to a few other things we've talked about. Yes, stop signs in the county. You come to some intersections with a corner around you, there will not be a stop sign on any side. So please don't expect there to be one. Slow down at all those. Would you say so too, Aaron?
This county, there should be at
Should
least
be.
some control unless they've been stolen or ran
Yeah,
over or not
just
replaced.
don't take it for granted, is what I'm trying to say. As for the rally, I think other people said it. All I wanted to say, I probably would go more into it, but I won't. But on positive thing, thank you for sending me to NACO. It was really nice. I actually have some books here. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, key terms and definitions for people for the task force for later if people just want to learn. That was it. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Wilson? You've already spoken, Samantha. Everybody else gets a chance, and then I will come back to you, as I told you just 5 minutes ago. Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, County Executive. Maybe I'm doing a slight turn in the topic, but then I do want to quick mention, yeah, my heart goes out to you, Emily, and I'm sorry. Deeply sorry. Yeah, really sorry. So anyway, I want to say the following, and I had planned to say this. I didn't know it would take an hour to get here or what, but anyway, is the sun rising or setting in America? Many people may not know this, but on this very day, about 2,000 years ago, on July 17th, 64 AD, Rome was burnt to the ground. Or actually, about 2/3 of Rome was burnt to the ground by their leader, and other people were blamed for causing that destruction. And a lot of those Christians lost their lives that year when Rome burnt to the ground. It's been over 40 years since there was an assassination against a presidential candidate. Beginning with Abraham Lincoln in 1865, 4 presidents have been assassinated. One presidential candidate has been assassinated. That was RFK. There were 6 attempts that we know of against sitting presidents, just the ones that are recorded. And then there have been 3 attempts against presidential candidates themselves. Now we need to ask the question, is the failed attempt assassination, is that a Trump event or is that an American event? Just like all previous events, they really were American events. And some of those events changed U.S. history and world history, like John F. K. So is there reason for all this? I guess I'd say yes, but to the best of our abilities, let's maintain civility in our political discourse, in our rhetoric. I know there's a lot of issues here, but I think on the big picture, and there's sensitive issues, and we all have incredibly deeply held beliefs. And I know my beliefs are not the same as others. But I try my best to always provide a listening ear and an open heart. So whatever our feelings are, my preference is to focus on issues and not personalities. So I'm going to ask the question again, is the sun rising or setting in America? Or is the sun rising or setting here on the county board? My choice is to see that the sun is rising. Thank you.
Ms. Carter, I will say before you go, I'm not going to get into a back and forth that could very easily start going back to people speaking multiple times. You have a few minutes to go ahead and speak, and then we're going to move forward.
I would like to respond to me asking for Emily Rodriguez papers. There has been multiple people in our community that are wondering if she is still a resident in Champaign County. It was also brought to my attention, I don't know if this is different, Mr. George Dano's situation is different, but it was brought to my attention that she did not vote in the primary election. Okay, so I only followed up because it was brought to me from the community to ask these questions because she misses so many meetings, and then she wants to spearhead the DEIA task force. But if you're not here, how do you promote a task force? Also, the language that is being had during communication, in none of my email communications amongst board members have been rude, downright rude, as Leah Taylor and Emily Rodriguez. You check the newspaper, you can constantly
Samantha,
see. You check
Samantha,
the
this is-
newspapers, you can constantly
no,
see the
you do not
same
have the
two
floor,
people.
Samantha.
The same
Samantha,
two
you do
people
not have the
is
floor.
always in
Please
the
turn your
media.
mic off.
That's always in the media, stirring up confusion
Samantha,
amongst this board.
please
So
turn off the
the
floor.
bully looking
You
for
are out of
sympathy
order.
is not acceptable to me.
You are out
Thank
of
you.
order, Samantha.
Thank you.
JJ. Audience, please. This is participation for the board, communication. JJ.
So a couple of things that I'd like to bring forward. First, I think that this, right now what's happening is proof that we need to have a full-time parliamentarian at all of our meetings, and it cannot be a member of this board. We need to do that right away because we have certain members of this board who disregard all parliamentary procedure. And unfortunately, the executive cannot enforce parliamentary procedure while certain people continue to disregard Robert's Rules of Order. The second thing that I think we need to look at is in our county board rules what this time of our meeting really is for. There is no definition of communication in our meeting, in our rules. I just looked that up. It's getting ridiculous. The personal attacks that happen during communications at every meeting have to end. And if we cannot do that amongst ourselves, again, this is where having a parliamentarian is necessary. We need to do this as soon as possible. The board 20 years ago had a parliamentarian who was not a board member sitting on the dais there to advise. It's time we go back to that. In fact, I believe Ms. McGrath was that person for a while, if I remember correctly. The second item I'd like to bring up is I can tell you right now that having served and been elected twice as auditor, defeating George Danos both of those times, I didn't have time to meddle in the residency of board members. I was doing actual work. We had a nursing home that was dragging this county down, and somebody had to get off their ass and do something. George Danos would have killed this county. The auditor's office was never in the paper when I was in office. You know why? I did my job and I kept my mouth shut. George Danos needs to learn that. I cannot believe that he is attacking a board member that he has no role over. He's always in here wanting to tell us, oh, I'm an independent elected official. Well, guess what? So is the board. Butt out. To my Democratic colleagues, he's your problem. We're just going to sit over here and eat our popcorn and watch him be a drag on you. Sorry. but I'm taking real personal pleasure out of it. Finally, and this kind of goes back to the idea of what is communications for? We're not experts on everything. I am not an attorney. I am not the state's attorney. I do not know what all goes into the decisions that the state's attorney has to make every day to charge people. I may not agree with the state's attorney, but I do not have the information that the state's attorney has in front of them to know when they need to charge someone. None of us, at least I don't think any of us, were part of that protest. We do not know what was going on. Okay, Mr. Owen was. I'm not going to comment on something that I'm not part of. I do not know, especially the information behind it. The state's attorney has a reason that they would charge someone. The state's attorney then has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this person violated a law. If we don't agree with the law, change the law. The state's attorney has a job. I'm glad the state's attorney is doing her job.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Thanks. This is not a fun meeting for me by any stretch of the imagination. I don't take any pleasure in addressing the actions that have happened to me over the past week or so, and I know everybody in this room is sick of dealing with drama from the county board. I take no pleasure in acknowledging it, but despite that, I think it's important to acknowledge that I am put in this position not for actions that I have taken, but choices that other people have made. And if I do not respond to what has happened to me, I look other Latinas in the eye that seek out public office, and I say, I kept my mouth shut. If I have kids, I look them in the eyes and I said, I made it harder for you to exist and to serve in public, and I can't do that. So again, I take no pleasure at this, but I have to address the emails and why it matters. The first thing I just want to underline here is that these emails were sent, first of all, to the only Latina on the county board, but also ahead of this meeting with these two contentious votes that I have been very vocal on. This meeting, and where my vote counts a lot, on the DEI task force and on the decision to put this on the ballot. The invasion of my privacy, the asking for documents about my financial status is retaliatory. First of all, it's meant to pressure me to vote a certain way. And I need to look every board member in the eye and ask if you're okay with that, and how long are we going to allow that to continue? I think that's a real question that we need to consider. Also, I need to address the dog whistle xenophobia. Before I address that, though, we need to acknowledge that anti-Black racism is the fulcrum of white supremacy. Everything turns on it. At the same token, these emails and the question that it raises to question my belonging still borrows from that same tool set of white supremacy. To target the single Latina on the county board for demonstrably false claims about attending meetings. You can check my attendance record. It's public access. And I will compare my attendance record to anybody on this board any day. Those are just facts. Questions that I am lazy, that I don't live where I truly should live, that I don't belong on this public body, that I don't deserve to serve. Here's another thing, that my constituents don't have the right to vote for me, that they were somehow misled and tricked and unable to make an educated decision is questioning the intelligence of voters in my district. Ooh. Even questioning my ability to pay my bills. This all borrows the same fulcrum that supports white supremacy. It is not about intention. This is about impact. This furthers white supremacy. I'm going to pause a minute to kind of like catch my breath here. So at the end of the day, I want to highlight that this is coordinated. It is no accident that these emails were sent, again, at the time that they were sent, and then also hitting both angles. It was like every single check mark of xenophobic dog whistles. The reason why my address is not public listed is because of the xenophobic attacks like this, actually. And I'm going to curse here. Whenever I first ran, and I got a lot of attention for running, I was called in my Facebook comments a shit-stained terrorist, that I don't deserve to be here. Why don't I just go home? And now to see these in my inbox, questioning my right to be here, asking for my utility bills, for my lease, it's astonishing to me. The fact that this is coordinated, Ms. Carter, the chair, who's tasked with leadership here, makes it harder for me to decide whether I want to vote. Shapes the way that I see the decision here tonight, how I will vote. That is not the role of the chair. Asking about my residency is not the role of the chair. I think we've explored quite thoroughly that it is not the role of the auditor to misrepresent himself. This is using county resources, both the chair and the auditor, to sway my vote and also to pressure me. The messages to question my belonging, to make me feel like I do not belong. And they are using county resources to do that. Emails, stipend money, salaries, titles to accomplish that goal. This is happening on our dime and on the dime of the people in the audience. And again, I started this by talking about who I have to look in the eye when I address whether I speak or not on this. You will also have to do the same. And I hope that you think about that next time, because there will be a next time when this happens. It will be somebody on this board targeted for some reason. And I hope that you remember this whenever you do have to look them in the eye and ask them how long you are going to make them go through this again and again and again. How long until we say no? And I agree with Mr. Farney. It's our caucus's problem. Thanks.
Go ahead, Ellie.
I'll make this brief since I think pretty much everything has been said, but I would just like to second the calls for both our auditor and our chair to resign.
All right, that closes communications. Moving on, approval of the minutes. If there's no objection, can I get an anonymous motion to approve the minutes of the June 20th regular meeting and the June 25th study session? Ms. Locke is the motion, second by Mr. Thorsland. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, moving on to our amended agenda. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-173, honoring retiring county employees? Dr. Storr, JJ, motion and a second. All in favor, signify by, well, wait a second. Dr. Storr, would you care to read the resolution and recognize our employees that have retired this year?
Thank you, County Executive Summers. I'd like to draw a breath and say that I'm honored to read this resolution. Resolution honoring retiring county employees. Whereas it is the vision of Champaign County Board to be recognized leader in local government where every official and employee has personal devotion to excellence in public service and embraces the highest standards of ethics and integrity, which enables Champaign County to provide the best customer services to its citizens. And whereas one element of pursuing this vision is communicating to employees that their service to Champaign County is both valued and appreciated. And whereas Champaign County employees admirably serve the people of Champaign County with full commitment to the responsibilities of county offices, work in partnership with fellow employees and county officials, and have dedication to the best interests of all people of Champaign County. And whereas the Champaign County Board wishes to recognize the dedication and service of the employees who have retired in the first half of fiscal year 2024, now therefore be it resolved that the Champaign County Board recognizes each of the aforementioned retiring Champaign County employees as an asset to the citizens of Champaign County and expresses gratitude and sincere appreciation for their years of service, presented, adopted, and approved and recorded this 18th day of July, Anno Domini 2024. I'd like to read the names, and I understand that some of the retirees are present, and if they would, please rise so that they can be recognized for their service. Shane Cook, 20 years of service. Douglas Bialeski, 29 years of service. Kevin McAllister and Angela McCarty, 30 years of service. Angela. Mark Plotner, 40 years of service. Thank you all. Thank you. I think that we need to vote.
We do indeed. All in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
My mic's off. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. On the amended agenda, we're going to the presentation from, sorry. Dr. Storr, why don't you take this then? Adoption of Resolution 2024-174.
Thank you, Chair Summers. With the help of our, HR person, Ms. Suzanne Brock, I'd like to read the following resolution honoring county employees in their number of years of service. Whereas it is the vision of Champaign County Board to be recognized leader in local government wherever every official and employee has personal devotion to excellence in public service and embraces the highest standards of ethics and integrity, which enables Champaign County to provide the best customer services to its citizens. And whereas one element of pursuing this vision is communicating to employees that their service to Champaign County is both valued and appreciated. And whereas Champaign County employees admirably serve the people of Champaign County with a full commitment to the responsibilities of the county offices, work in partnership with fellow employees and county officials, and have dedication to the best interests of all the people of Champaign County. And whereas the Champaign County Board wishes to recognize the dedication and service of the employees who have reached 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35-year milestones in the first half of fiscal year 2024. Now, therefore be it resolved that the County Board of Champaign County hereby recognizes each of the aforementioned Champaign County employees as an asset to the citizens of Champaign County and expresses our deep gratitude and sincere appreciation for their years of service. Presented, adopted, approved, and recorded this 18th day of July, Anno Domini 2024. And if you hear your name read and you're present, and I know that a few are, please. Did I say, huh? Oh, okay. All right. No, I'm going to read the names. We'll recognize you in course here. Chase Restek, Isak Griffiths, Will Adams, Christopher McCallum, Angela Patton, Celeste Blodgett, Matthew Cross, Jennifer Hall, Michelle Jett, Kayla Bishop, Joel Palamaki, and Luz Malero, Charlotte Folsom Shaka, and Jeffrey Metzler, all 5 years employees. Thank you. But wait, there's more. I'll get to that. For 10 years of service, recognizing 10 years of service, Dale Rodden, Bernard Joyner, Robert Hubbard, Robin Curtis. Thank you. And recognized for 15 years of service, Ms. Lynn Canfield. And Billy Pryor. Recognized for 20 years of service, Bobby Johnson, who's here, hey. Michael Wirtz, Clifford Crowley, Andrew Good, Joshua Reestick, Leanne Brehab Riley, Sean Hallett. Thank you. For 25 years of service, Mr. David Sherrick and Ellen Guillory. "35 years of service, Tim Breen and Teresa, is he here? Oh, hey. And Teresa Schlentz. My thanks to Suzanne for giving me a guide to pronunciation, and if I mangled any of these, it was my own doing. I think I make this motion.
Go ahead, Chris, yes.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Chris. All right. Apparently, the folks from Barry Dunn have decided to take a break. So.
How about a 5-minute break there, Steve?
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break, guys. That's a good idea. Thank you. Good idea, Jeff. All right, folks, about one more minute and then we'll start. All right, folks, we are going to start again. Yeah. Just to make sure we've got a quorum, I'm going to ask Matt to read the roll again, please. Call the roll.
Lakshin.
Here.
Michael, Owen.
Here.
Pugh.
Present.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Rogers. Sexton.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Storr. Straub.
Yes.
Taylor.
Here.
Thorsland.
Here.
Vanish Thirlot. Wilson.
Here.
Cowart.
Present.
Esri.
Here.
Farney.
Here.
Furtado. Hanauer Friedman.
Here.
Locke.
Here.
Storr.
Present.
Carter.
Here.
We have a quorum. All right, our consultants from Barry Dunn are here with our circuit clerk. Would the folks from Barry Dunn please come to the mic and introduce yourselves? Yourself. Touch it and it'll turn, yep, there you go, you're on.
I've seen the red, and I do mean the mics. Good evening. Thank you for having me here. My name is Alec Letty. I am a manager at Barry Dunn. I believe you're somewhat familiar with my firm. A colleague of mine, Michelle Weinsettle, has been working with public safety agencies in your county for a little longer than I've been working with the justice agencies that I've been working with my team. I am the practice lead in my firm for what we call the justice practice. That's a name that I came up with because I really like it. And what we do is focus on courts and prosecutors' offices all over the country. In fact, I just came here from Louisiana, and I want to thank you, even though you have nothing to do with it, for the weather. It's a lot better here than it is in Louisiana. I will try to be brief. I know you all have one of these in front of you. This is not brief. It was not intended to be, but I'm certainly not going to read it. I'm not going to give you a PowerPoint. I'm going to talk about it for 6 or 7 or 8 minutes, and then I'm going to open it up to questions. There are two things I want to say before I get started. One is I don't know if they're usually here. I suspect some of them are and some of them aren't. But I do want to identify and thank the people who are here who've been part of this project for the last 8 to 10 months, along with their staffs. And I'll just say their names because their staff are not here. Tim Breen with County IT has been participating from the get-go, sort of watching over from a technology perspective. Susan McGrath, you all know Susan, the circuit clerk from the circuit clerk's office. Julia Reitz, the state's attorney's office, has been part of this. Liz Pollack from the public defenders. Shannon Siders from probation and court services, and Judge Dyer is here from the court. All of them and their staffs have been fabulous. I want to just build on something that Dr. Storr talked about a few minutes ago. The people who work in these agencies are fabulous. They are committed, they care about what they do, and they care about the citizens of this county. For somebody coming from the outside, and for somebody who's been in courts and court administration my entire career, it's a beautiful thing to see. So congratulations, and you should take heart from what's happening in your courts and prosecutor's office and circuit clerk's office. Okay. So the background of this project, it's the case management system project. As you may or may not be aware, all of the agencies that I just mentioned all share a single product, or at least a bunch of products made by a single manufacturer. That the company that owns and runs that and charges for that product is a company called JANO. JANO is based here in Champaign. JANO is a minority-owned business and was started by somebody local to Illinois, and they do work only in Illinois. Those are all great things. The product that is in use in this county has been in use for about 15 years, and it's a little old in the tooth. It is not thoroughly modern in every way. It has significant limitations. I'm not going to go through those. They're all listed in the report. And I think that was the genesis of having us come in and take a look and talk to everybody, which we did. We spent had three different trips on site here to Champaign County. We interviewed, I think, around 60 people total between all the offices. We made a long list of the pain points and kind of described how things are currently. That was our first report. That's called the current state report. It is separately tabbed in here. All of these reports that I'm going to mention are in this product, in this final needs assessment product. Following that, we did some market research. We went out and the participants in this project said we want to look at products from companies that are already in Illinois and that can handle more than just a court or a clerk function. They also should be able to do a defender, prosecutor, probation, so forth and so on. So we had 3 vendors. One of them was JANO, one was Tyler Technologies, which I'm sure you're all familiar with because it is in your county in many different ways already. The other one we asked to come was Journal Technologies. All of them came. All of them gave demonstrations, all of them answered questions, and all of them answered written questions that we had, and all of them provided numbers. Now, obviously those numbers are not real exactly because it's not in response to an RFP. It's not, they weren't given very specific parameters for their number crunching, but to their credit, they gave us generalized numbers. What you're going to find, based on the way that we went through this, and in the report, you'll see the assumptions that we made. You'll see all of the things that we were measuring. We kind of found that the 3 different vendors, including the one that's already here, we used a 6-year cost of ownership, total cost of ownership. They all came out fairly similar in terms of what it's going to cost over the next 6 years. Now, that's despite the one that's already here not having $1 million upfront implementation cost. The reason for that is in here. I am going to tell you, I've buried the lead long enough. I'm going to tell you the 3 recommendations that are in the report. I'm going to look at my notes because I don't want to get it wrong. I'm also going to invite questions in just a second and ask anybody who wants to say something of that group, not anybody, to please feel free. They've been intimately involved with this. They know this thing, I'm sure, better than I do. Okay, very high level, 3 recommendations. And frankly, possibly the most important one is they need more IT people. And I shouldn't say that, not IT people. They need support. And because of the age of this particular system, they probably have to be IT people, if this is the system that you keep, or that these folks keep. If you modernize and have more of a web-based, more modern, more intuitive system, which exists, those people probably don't need to be so IT specific. They probably can cost less money, and they're definitely going to have more knowledge of the business processes, which I think is critical. I ran a court for about 20 years in the great state of Maine, and it is critical that those people understand the processes of these offices. These offices do things that not every people do, and people don't understand unless they're there, and they've been there. We think you need 3 positions. We think 2 of those need to be in the circuit clerk's office. 1 of them needs to be in the state's attorney's office. Bam, I said it. All right, an IT strategic plan for the justice agencies. We think you need that to cover 5 to 10 years. Frankly, 10 years is awfully far out. 5 years is very doable. This certainly could form the basis, the beginning of that strategic plan, but we think you need a more wide-ranging outlook on what you're going to do over the next 5 and 10 years. The courts, I don't have to tell you, in the state's attorney's office, I certainly don't have to tell you after tonight, what they do in your community is critical. It is absolutely crucial. It has to do, and frankly, everything you said tonight could somehow end up in one of those places, and some of them already are, apparently. We believe, our recommendation, my recommendation, is that each of the agencies that I mentioned, the state's attorney's office, the public defender's office, the circuit clerks, which would encompass probation and court services and the court, should migrate to new, more modern systems. I don't think all of the elected officials agree with me on that, and that's fine. We do deal with that in the report. We say if you're going to stick with JANO, we think you need to do this, this, and this. And frankly, that's why the cost for them is higher than without the implementation, because in order to do this, this, and this, and I'm talking about more training, I'm talking about getting them to do things that they don't currently do, it's going to take money to do those things, because they've got a kind of sweet deal right now. They don't necessarily have a lot of motivation to change it unless somebody comes to them and says, we're going to move on. That would motivate them. And I do want to say, NOSA is the gentleman's name who runs JANO right now, has been fantastic through this process. He's been very responsive, he's been very receptive, and he's been very open. And I give him great kudos for that, and I take some comfort and confidence in that, the way that he's approached this project, because for him it's only a threat. But he's been helpful. I mean, at the very high level, those are the bottom line recommendations. Did you raise your hand? No, you don't have to.
I'm here for questions.
You're here for questions. Anyone else? Liz, you want to say something?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I am speaking on behalf of myself and the Champaign County State's Attorney. We were both participants in this review process, and whatever the county decides to do, if you want to keep JANO for the circuit clerk and the court and court services, that's fine, but we're going to need to break off from that, because that product is never going to be able to build us the reporting requirements that we need. There is still no plan for tracking the number of cases that our people have. There is no plan for tracking data such as how many firearms cases do we have, how many murder cases do we have, how many individual cases do each of our attorneys have. It is not going to be able to make those adjustments, and so one of the recommendations in the report is that it might be a plan for the public defender and the state's attorney to break off from the court and find our own product. To that end, we have already begun investigating potential products And we have had meetings with a provider who would, I think the total cost, including startup cost would be around 40 grand for both of our offices each, and then long-term maintenance costs would be another 40 grand a year for both of our offices, which is cheap as hell. And the product that we were looking at is one that I think we both really liked. And of course, in order to procure a product like this, we'd have to do a full RFP to the world, and we're gonna do that. So coming up in the next month, you should be seeing a proposal for RFP with our offices jointly requesting it. We're going to be asking for the ability to explore case management software that is particular to our two offices. One of the things that we're looking at specially is the ability to share information back and forth across the program. For example, and just as an example, the Safety Act requires the state's attorney's office to provide us with petitions to detain and all discovery in advance of a detention hearing. Right now, we are handing documents to each other across the bar because we don't have a way to exchange the documents electronically. The system that we particularly looked at would be an automatic transfer of both digital and PDFs. So we could literally just cross the barrier between our two offices. It would also allow for hundreds of different report tracking that would enable me to, I don't know, see how many cases we have. Because it would be nice not to, assign one of my attorneys 20 cases and another one 5 and not be able to track how many they're closing and how they're keeping up. So we think this is going to be an appropriate step for us to take, and we anticipate moving forward with that process relatively quickly. Yeah.
Hi, Liz. Out of the other 2 programs, do you or Julia like either of those, or you said no to all 3?
None of the programs that we saw demonstrated have the capability that I need.
I'm sorry, can I just interject really fast? If we're going to do an RFP, it needs to be an open, equal process.
Yep.
So please keep that in mind as we continue this conversation in public on YouTube.
Right. No, we know that. And so we've had a couple of demonstrations, but we're by no means committed to any particular product. We just know what we want, and it's not what has been shown to us thus far. So we want to kind of break off and go our own way.
In fairness, I do want to just say that those companies were asked to present the court case management systems. That's on the project team, that's on us. They weren't asked to present. They do have those products, but they weren't presenting specific to the defender or the state's attorney. The costs for those 2 that Liz mentioned, I think they're on page 61 in your books. And again, those are estimates.
Do you want to know
what a case management system is? Yeah. So.
I just dove right in.
I know, you did. And this is what we instructed Alec to do. Instead of reading the report verbatim or doing a very meaningless PowerPoint. But I want to step back for a minute because these are terms we use at the courthouse every day. And sometimes I think people within a system just assume that everybody knows what we're talking about, which is probably not the case here. So we're really talking about 2 big things going on at the same time. One is, how do we manage all the information, all the court documents, all the case files, all the information about court dates and calendars, and all the things that pass through the court system every day. So when we talk about that case management system, that's a tool that we use to do all those things. It used to be on paper with great big docket books, and Stephanie Fortato has seen those because she came to my office to do a research paper and had a lot of fun looking at our historical documents, as they call it in Star Trek land. But we've changed from paper belatedly. The court system's probably the last place on earth that has actually started computerizing its documents, and that is not completely done yet. There are things that the Supreme Court has said we still have to do on paper. There's things that we still do as a combination. There are things that we do all electronically. But we have people come to the courthouse every day to start a case, to do some stuff with a case, to get a copy of a will from grandma's estate, to look at some information from an adoption or a custody case, or many things that can bring them there to get information. For example, about an expungement. They're trying to clean up their criminal record. They're looking at some old cases to see what they can do to take care of all of that. So it's the big piece here is the stuff that makes the court run from beginning to end, and then how people get that information at various points along the way. What we're also talking about is when you all started this in 2003, the model was everybody uses the same system to do everything that they need. So not just the stuff that makes the court run, but also things that we need to do internally. So for example, every year, it seems like I have 50,000 reports I need to do for the Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts. It's maybe not 50,000, but it sure seems like a lot. And we all have reporting that we need to do to outside agencies. I also have to be able to tell people how much money they're getting for the different police agencies, Children's Advocacy Center, and the like. They have to know where those numbers come from and how we got to them. The reporting that Liz and Julia are talking about are things to help them make their office run better. So just like the reports I have to do, they need to know that they're using what they have to have most effectively for their staff. So are they distributing the cases the right way? Who's handling all the murder cases right now? When they're looking at results, outcomes, how do they measure those? So those are internal reports, things that are separate from the case management system itself. And we were trying to make this system that we adopted in 2003 work to do all this stuff, and it can't. It really wasn't designed to do all the sophisticated things we need it to do. So what Alec has recommended in his report is that it really makes sense at this point to break off the internal stuff, the reporting stuff, from what we do to make the court operate, because it's not feasible or efficient to try to cram all that stuff into one system anymore. And we can all tell you in different ways that that just doesn't work. So Alec has pointed out to us what other counties and other states are doing to make that happen. And so it makes sense from what Liz has said and what Julia has said to split off what they need from the case management system and adopt something that makes that piece work. And it will be less costly and it will be more efficient. Instead of us having to do things manually in some cases, it will make all these things work better. It's not going to be easy, because I can tell you right now, McLean County is going through the same process. They're about in year 5.5 of implementing their new system. Along the way, they have done some things that now we've learned from in terms of splitting off these pieces, because they too figured out that you can't do everything in the same product. And so we are fortunate that we're not the first. In this case, I'm glad we're not, because we've learned more about how to do these things. So I just wanted to give a little background on that, because I know we're throwing a lot of stuff at you tonight, and I just hope that maybe this helps make a little bit more sense as we make the presentation.
Stephanie.
Ms. Judge, did you have like a point of information? I have, I think, 3 questions. The first question is to that last point. So my understanding is that the plan is to go forward with 3 separate RFPs. Does that seem like an accurate statement? That's what it says on page 7. Or maybe 2, 1 for you two. And I guess I understand the desire to split off, but are we confident? One of the weaknesses that's addressed in the plan is like sort of the lack of ability of our systems right now to speak to each other. And so how confident are we that that sort of interface between these different systems would be capability? Like, I totally understand like the wanting of different needs, but then we already have a lot of systems within the criminal justice system within our city, our county, that do not speak to each other. And so I just want to make sure that we're not adding to that. And then I have two other quick questions.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. So on pages 88 and 89, there is a list by office of where the data they need is and who holds it, and vice versa, what data they have that they need to share with other agents. To your point, I'm very confident. It's hard work, but all of these companies, certainly the companies that came in for market research, and certainly the companies that I think would be responding well to an RFP, they can interface with all of these different justice systems and partners. I've seen it done over and over and over again. And one point I do want to make, the fact that different systems that are owned by the same company, that you'd think logically that means they're going to talk to each other much better. That is not the case. No. They might be able to get it that way, but most likely company A went out and bought product 3, 4, and 5 and hasn't started over from the bottom up to make them work together seamlessly. So it's really not that different from, company A and company B having to work together. You make it part of your contract, you hold them to it. That's the answer.
My next question is specifically around the AS400. And so when I'll say, like, when I was reading this and I was like 5 to 10 years to retire the AS400, I was like, that long, right? Because I do think having a real conversation about what that means to our IT staff and the drag of having to do SQL and DB2 is on do you know what I'm saying? Like what that means. So I guess one of my questions is, and this is maybe a bigger question for the county. That seems like we want to get off of that thing, right? And so I feel like anything we can do to move that forward, even if it costs more for this implementation side, because of what that will do for our staffing requirements and the flexibility of those staffing requirements, I think is something we as a board that need to decide. But in regards to that, one thing I guess I didn't see enough of and that I'd like to hear a little bit more is are we sure that we've captured, and I'm sure you have, like the full bore of what it's going to take to get that data? Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That data process and my understanding of the quality of data in the AS400 into a different system seems like a very, very heavy lift that I don't feel was, it was like mentioned in here, but I feel like it seemed like it should be mentioned with more alarm. And I feel like that's something that we need to make abundantly clear in the RFPs, because I don't want to get into a situation where we put the RFPs on the street, we get the bids back, they get here, and in 3 months they're like, oh, we didn't understand what we signed up for. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
so
and let me say, Barry Dunn can assist us in the RFP process if we contract with them to do that. And that's something we did talk about as a group, because none of us individually or even collectively have the experience that we need to do that. And no disrespect to the process that happened in 2003, nobody knew anything about this whole thing that many years ago, because it was a brand new concept. But I think what we have all learned, thanks to Alex and his team, is what we actually don't know and what we need help with. And sometimes that's just as important as what we do know. We collectively have legal knowledge, and we have knowledge about the system, and we have knowledge about things that we need. But that's why Tim Breen has been a very important part of what we do, because I guess he and I might have started about the same time. I actually remember when I was on the board when we bought the AS400, and at the time we said, oh, a good 20-year computer system, yay. Okay, that was a while ago. But we have talked about that within our group. And before Tim decides he's tired of us and walks off, we want to make sure that we retain his knowledge about how to make that transition.
Susan, can I address that question?
Absolutely. Would you like the chair?
Sure, I'd
All
love the
right.
chair. So I appreciate the concern about the data transition, and I just want to say, first of all, that's absolutely something that we would address in an RFP, but also that we have already started those conversations, particularly my new operations manager, that's what you decided to call yourself, right? Bud Windleborn, who is fantastic, first of all, I want to say. In the 2 weeks that he's been here has been amazing. But one of the things that he did was contact Will County, which also had transitioned from JANO to one of the products that Liz and I are interested in, and talked with them about that process and gotten a lot of good information about that. And I think that's something to be concerned about, but it is something that is technologically and it's possible and doable, and they did it. So it's issues we are addressing.
I have full confidence that it's possible. I just want to make sure that we are allocating enough money for the man hours that it's going to take, right? I do have one more, Susan, question, or maybe both of you. Timing. So are you anticipating, we're about to go into the budget process, here next month. And this, I will say, report will let me sleep a lot better because there is the possibility that we could fund this. This is something that we could fund right now. I mean, in the 2024-5 budget. Is that like, what is the timing here? Because I think that's going to be a big, as we go into these budget deliberations, that's something we really need to know.
Well, I'm going to say, on behalf of Liz and I, that we are going to be requesting budget amendments or whatever we're calling it during the budget process in order to be able to move forward with these programs. So that is going to be something that we're going to discuss with you at that time.
Judge Dyer is here. I know that the court is also interested in another product that was brought to us during the presentations that would be specific to court operation. And I think that's something they're perhaps studying now, but haven't come to a conclusion on. Oh,
Susan
I'm sorry.
Turner, sorry.
That is, I'm sorry. And after that lecture too, I'm sorry. But I think that's something that they have not reached a full conclusion on.
There's no conclusion as to anything.
Okay.
Correct.
And I think as far as the larger data management system is concerned, Alec doesn't know this because I haven't asked him yet, but what I would like to have is the money to look at the possibility of the RFQ, because I know I cannot do that. He has the experience and the knowledge, and I think it's a big project. I don't care if we're talking about this money or even a little bit more money. It's a big decision that we need to make really sure that we're doing the right thing.
So point of clarification, you anticipate in the 2025 budget that what you'd be asking for is funding for the firm to do the RFQ?
Yes.
And then maybe not start it, or?
I don't think we're going to be able to start it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That's
So, and I think if I'm remembering the budgeting process correctly, we're also supposed to say what are we looking forward to in 2026.
Of course, yeah.
And it makes sense to me that we're looking at the RFQ in 2025, and then whatever we might find from that, then we're looking at the decision-making in 2026.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Does that make sense?
That's super helpful. This is going to be one of the big pivot points in the upcoming budget process, so thank you for that.
And we're very cognizant, and I know it's a relief. Jamala asked me this before the meeting. About 10 years ago, when people started talking about this project and what it would cost and how long it would take and so forth, at the time, there were a couple of other counties going through the process, and they ended up spending I was going to say a crap ton. They end up spending a lot of money on something that unfortunately in a couple places didn't work very well. And that's why we're being really cautious about this. But we really asked Alec and his team to drill down on numbers, making them realistic and actual with the provisions that he discussed this evening, as opposed to trying to guess what it might be. And I think what we forgot in the beginning is technology is not getting more expensive, it's actually getting cheaper. Because people have more experience and they're doing more. In 2003, when this process started, there weren't that many vendors at all that were doing this stuff. So I don't want to say it was a monopoly, but it was a very limited field, and so costs were what they were. But now we know that there are more vendors that do this kind of thing, and there are going to be some efficiencies because of competition, frankly. So I think that helps us, and I'm frankly relieved that we're looking at something that is more affordable, but will still do what we need it to do.
Go ahead, Jen. Locke.
I'm very excited by the numbers, the potential numbers. I read this, and I don't know, maybe like 6 of us have actually had time to read this thick report beforehand. But everyone I talked to was like, did you see it? And yes, it's so happy about that. I'm also happy about wanting to contract to have help for the RFP, because you wouldn't ask a high school team to build an airplane, right? And this is your knowledge, this is your wheelhouse, and so absolutely, I support that. But also, having been an attorney who got discovery sent electronically 15 years ago, that it's being handed physically across the bench, that needs to happen yesterday. So I also understand the courts wanting to break off. I also understand the state's attorney and the public defender wanting to break off, and I support that as well. And anything you bring to hasten that so that we are getting discovery and not coming up on constitutional issues of ineffective representation because we're not getting discovery quickly enough. I'd like to avoid those issues, so let's get that as soon as we can.
And I think our real challenge, and this sounds crazy because we've been talking about the professional part of this, but honestly, our real challenge is the growing number of people in both civil and criminal cases that are doing their own case without representation. And it is a challenge to make a technology that addresses that particular issue. And one of the things we've talked about is making the information more accessible. That's a must. Making documents and docket entries and the things that talk about what happened in court and all that stuff, and the calendars and reminders and other things that we've talked about. We want to make that a part of this. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do everything. And I think that in 2003, people were looking at a system that they thought might be able to do everything, and it did to a large extent. And one of the things, as Alec talked about in his study, is we've been lucky to have a vendor as responsive as this one. Because I can tell you from some of the other stuff we work with, that I won't mention any names, but it's not always that way, especially when you have a vendor that's not in Illinois. It can make it very difficult to get stuff done the way you want to. So we're looking at all these factors carefully, but we do need some professional guidance to get this done because we don't know all the stuff we need to know.
I think also I wanted to add, because I know that this is a topic of great concern for you all, employee retention is, I think, a big issue, obviously. I appreciate that you all set aside the time to appreciate those who have worked for the county for so many years, and they sat here and you acknowledged them And I think that those of them that were here appreciate being acknowledged. But I think that providing our staffs with adequate and modern technology to do their jobs is a huge issue when it comes to employee satisfaction and retention. Because our staffs, my staff, Liz's staff, Susan's staff, the court staff, all of us, are working harder, not smarter, because of the technology that we have to work with. And they should be able to work smarter and do the work that needs to be done for the public. And then the other point that I want to make, is that a big issue for the court system is transparency and the inability to provide reports about what we're doing, our numbers, our results, is a huge issue with our current system. And that is something that is very important to me. The systems that we are looking at allow us to provide data to the public very accessibly in clear and easy to understand formats. And we want to be able to do that. We want to be able to answer the public's questions about what's going on in the court system and the criminal justice system.
And since Alec was nice enough to say what we did to help, I do want to say Barry Dunn has been one of the best consultants, really, that I have ever worked with, going back to my county board days, because they paid attention. They paid attention. They listened. They did a bunch of meetings with us, which I'm sure seemed incessant after a while. They let us look at all of their documentation and say, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? They have been responsive and helpful and practical. And I think that's what you see in the study is they've talked about stuff that you guys need to know too. You need numbers. You need to know quantification. You need to know what results that we can expect from this. The thing that we don't yet know is how long it will take to implement. Going back, Stephanie, to your question. And I think what you're going to find is the answer is going to be different depending on what we end up doing.
And it's going to be different for an office the size of Liz's office, Julia's office, and Susan's office. And data conversion is going to be the biggest issue, especially in the court. There are people in the court already who recognize that the data there is a real problem, and it may not. There are parts of it that may not be salvageable. That's an issue, but it has to be dealt with.
Thank you. I appreciate this. I guess the question that I have, like total cost. So it says here that it's for 6 years. Let me turn it back here. Okay, so these are the 3 suggested programs that they go with, right? And so for 3 years, it would be between 2.9 and 3.4 million?
Well, and let me say this, which is a great question. You guys have asked some great questions about numbers. These are estimates based on the presentations that we received, so they're not from an RFQ.
Okay.
This is what these folks actually voluntarily gave us information about based on the presentations that they made to us and what we in general terms told them that we needed. The numbers seem realistic based on what other counties are telling us that they have spent in this regard that are similar in size to us. So McLean County, Sangamon County is working on something similar now. McLean County, I hope, will be done this year so I can pick their brains some more. But other counties have actual numbers. This is just a preliminary information step for us. But I think that we feel that the estimates are realistic. And when the time comes, as Michelle said, when the RFQ process comes, that's where I think we'll see more participation a broader scope of what we're going to do, and to then figure out in the end what's going to work best for us, not just with cost, but also with what the product is going to produce for us. Because you all remember from a long time ago, you don't have to pick the lowest cost. You're picking the lowest responsible cost. And the lowest responsible cost may not be the cheapest one.
Thank you for explaining that.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
Go ahead.
So I have a couple questions. While you were going over this with them, was there any documentation of current processes and procedures for how things currently work or how things are supposed to work?
Yes,
Okay.
a lot.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please, God, document, because if you don't know how your processes work, no amount of
Right.
technology is going to save you.
No, and what we did, and again, this was what Alec and his team helped guide us through, is we had individual meetings with groups of staff in each of the offices. We had really individual meetings with a lot of the stakeholders. So with Tim,
Yeah, I was going to say.
with the judges, with Shannon,
The sheriff's office.
Liz, the
jail.
sheriff's office, yes. We also had groups of users that were identified and we got information from as part of the process. So the Bar Association, law enforcement agencies, and other agencies of that sort, Land of Lincoln. And so we radiate out to lots of different groups in the community, and Alec made sure that we included representatives of those groups in what we talked about too. So it wasn't even just the internal stuff. It was also people from the outside saying, hey, we use this, and here's what we see.
Honestly, it's the processes that kind of make it so obvious that something needs to change.
Yes.
Right.
Obviously. My other question is, I noticed you're talking about the cloud and you're talking about training up employees that are already there who have a technological bent to support yourself. Go ahead.
I talked about that,
You talked
yes.
about- yeah. So speaking from experience, when you train up your internal people to learn how to use things like AWS, AWS will poach those people because they can offer them 2 to 3 times what you're paying them, and then you will be paying them to be contractors.
Right.
And that's how they will come back. So you want to probably consider that in any RFP
Oh,
or
yeah.
anything you're going to be doing, because it'll be 2 to 3 years, maybe for the good ones, it'll be like 18 months. They're going to be gone.
Well, and Tim can tell you, in the last 2 years after you all gave us the ability to transfer some money around and look at the 2 people that can help us in the courthouse with our systems, we have hired no one in that 2-year time. And that's because what we need is going to cost more than what we had bargained for. And the people who effectively do the stuff that we need to have done are not going to come for what we are offering.
Yep.
So, and that's why Alec talked about that in his study, is because even, it doesn't matter what system we pick. If we stay, if we go, along the way, we really need to have some people that continue to be on board to help us with the transition and then with the operation of what we do. And we need to make sure that they are training other people, as you said, in turn, so that when people go, and Julia touched on this, retention is important, but it's not going to do the whole trick for us.
Yeah.
We may also have to start thinking about a couple of staff positions in 26 or 27 that are a little bit different than what we have right now. But hopefully, we'll learn more when somebody helps us with all this, right, Alec?
I also didn't notice that you had, I noticed you said there should be some IT, service system administrators on site to do support. Has there been any talk about having a dedicated service desk?
Yes.
For answering common questions and things like that?
Because right now, what's happened is my chief deputy's doing all of that.
Yeah.
Because we've not been able to find anybody to fill those 2 positions. That's what she's doing.
Okay.
Which is lovely. I don't mind sharing. But it'd be also lovely to have her doing some stuff that I need to have her do.
One of the reasons we suggested putting one of those people in the state's attorney's office is because that's the next biggest organization. And there's a natural tension, you know, the state's attorney is a party, and the court is the court. And it would be nice if the state's attorney didn't have to rely on the goodwill of the, you know, the clerk to provide IT services.
Right.
Well, yeah, there's strength in numbers too when you pull your resources for things.
I'll say.
I'm sure they would work together.
Yeah. So, yeah, and the data is, dirty data will kill you, but trying to make it all clean will also kill you. So
Yeah,
you're kind of in a rock and a hard place there.
We've talked to ESOC. ESOC really has it going on. I mean, she knows what she's talking about, and she she's very aware of the situation with the data in the clerk's office. That's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way around it.
And I want to say for all of us, thank you for taking the time to read the study. And some people asked questions even before tonight's meeting, which I really appreciated. It's obviously important to a whole lot of people that we do this and we do it right. And I know we've taken up a lot of your time this evening, so I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Jeff?
Thank you. I have one question, I believe, on this topic, and then I have a couple questions on the proposed amendment. So I'm trying to figure out when I should ask what question. So I think, staying on topic, I need to ask one question here and my other questions later. Is that correct?
Just, let's go ahead and ask your question, and we'll continue forward.
All right, either way, thanks. Hey, thanks for coming all the way from Louisiana. I just spent the last week in California. It was 117 degrees there. So it's nice to be here in this nice weather in the Midwest. I'm wrapping my brain around this, but what I think is your charter was to come up with a recommendation for direction for which the county should go. And the way I'm interpreting your direction, I think is three aspects, but I'll focus on two of them. I think what you're saying is there needs to be a separation or a divorce or a distinction between what's going on in, well, I don't know, maybe that's the right word or not, but it seems to me there needs to be a separation between the state's attorney's process, public defender's process, how they manage their cases, how they track them, how they report them, versus how Ms. McGrath does her stuff. Is that true? That's the actual recommendation, is to split the two, and at the same time, they all need to talk to each other to transmit information back and forth. Did I get that right?
So, yes.
Spot on.
With one caveat, and that is, can I?
Yes.
I want to speak into it.
There.
The caveat being that you may end up with 3 of the same vendor's systems.
Yeah.
But they're going to be their own systems.
Sure.
Yes. So
And
yes.
hopefully they talk to each other, and if they don't, then you just go back, get more contracts, get them work together, whatever.
Right.
And then I think the other major piece is the IT piece, right? The programming piece, understanding the program and the software, which I guess is going to take 3 to 5 years to figure this out, with additional resources that are really separate and distinct from the productivity of the office. Is that right?
Are you referring to the strategic plan piece?
Yeah, your first comments were about
I
IT services, and I think they're totally different than what the public defender or the state's attorney would do, because we want attorneys doing attorney stuff, right? We don't want attorneys doing IT stuff, vice versa. Is that?
That's true. I think the first point that I made was that we recommend, we believe there needs to be more help desk, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
Support in both in the circuit clerk's office and in the state's attorney's office, available to all of these agencies, but directly working on the case management system as it's implemented, as it's purchased, as it's brought into life.
All right. Thank you so much. I think I got it. I think I figured it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I did figure it out. So thank you for doing this. Do I say my questions for the next step or not? I need a parliamentarian to help me understand this.
If the question, you're talking about questions with regard to the resolution, once we get to that point, Jeff?
Yes.
Let's wait till that point then,
Okay.
yeah.
And Jeff, just to make it clear, just a presentation tonight, because as Julia has said, she and Liz will be bringing forward, she and Liz will be bringing forward their own plans for the separation, not divorce, because we still like each other. So they will be bringing plans into the budget. We'll be bringing a plan for next year's budget as well, but in a different way. And so this will happen in different pieces, but I think it makes sense to do it this way.
Further questions? Go ahead, Michelle.
I just want to kind of prep the board to be thinking about the more types of software programs we bring on, the more people we need to add to our actual IT department. And we should be including that in the potential costs that we're considering. And I'm talking separate from this help desk capacity, which I absolutely agree we need. We have those positions, we haven't been able to fill them, but aside from that, we need someone in the IT department with IT experience who can manage and monitor the software program at the root level by itself. And we do not have the capacity to just assign that in our existing staff. We would need more IT staff for that. So just to put that on your radar is a cost we need to be considering. And then, Susan, am I remembering wrong, but I felt like McLean County was one of the counties where we kept hearing the cost was significantly higher and very large for them to do this process.
McLean County, their real problem has been the implementation, and it's been the data transfer. And it was not so much a question of a lot of additional costs, because there really wasn't.
Okay.
It was more a problem of the data transfer. And in 2003, when JANA was adopted, and that had to happen from the old system to the new one, it's still creating problems even today, because it just wasn't all done right.
Okay.
And that's what McLean County is doing and having their issues with, is that data transfer. And it's a difficult piece, because everybody's going from a pretty old system, and they are too, to a new one.
Okay.
And I think that it has cost some additional money for consultation.
Okay.
That they had to hire a consultant to help them with the data issue.
Okay. I just thought I remember them being the one where we were getting the $15 million costs, because like they had started lower and then the cost just kept piling on. But we've been talking about this for a while, so I could be confused. I think the point would be, we should absolutely use them as a very detailed case study.
Yes.
Before we do anything after the RFQ process.
Well, and let me say, some counties that have gone through this have decided just to create their own system, because it has been so difficult. We can't use Cook County as a model for everything, because their system is hideously large. And I would never want to try to manage that one. But there have been some other smaller counties that have gone to their own system too, because of all this. So it's not necessarily a straight line process. You're absolutely right.
Go ahead, Beth.
Did I not turn on? If you do go the cloud route, they do offer services like system administration for things like keeping your software up to date and patching, and you don't necessarily have to have on-prem support for those things. You don't even necessarily have to have on-prem servers. But you will pay for it. You're still going to be paying for it. But you don't, one of the nice things about that is that you don't have to worry about retention of employees, because that's on the third party. You're kind of outsourcing that to them.
And it just depends. You're absolutely right. Part of it is the day-to-day stuff. When somebody says they can't get access to something, they can't see the images of the documents, they can't read something that's supposed to be within that electronic case file, that there's something going on with the confidentiality of a document, or so on and so forth. That self-help desk thing, or the help desk thing, I think will still be necessary.
absolutely.
It just depends on what we're paying for. You're absolutely right.
And I would also ask, have you guys looked into the data lake idea where you can have one interface that calls all these different systems and then puts it in a commonly used format?
Yeah, you mean like a bus or something like that? That wasn't part of what we looked at here,
Okay.
but we did make mention of it actually somewhere, I can't remember where it is, because some places do that, especially bigger places, states do it certainly. IT really would have to weigh in heavily on that, and all the other partners who would be accessing it and talking to it. But we're aware of it, it's certainly not a bad idea.
But again, it's the money.
Yep.
Yep, no,
Sure is.
we're right there with you.
That's why we need help with the RFQ. Not I'm staring at you.
Yeah.
Further questions? Okay, not seeing any, let's move on. Oh, Michelle, go ahead.
I just
Point
want
of
to confirm
information.
that we're all on the same page, so there's no surprises. So it sounds like there seems to be understanding and consensus that the public defender and the state's attorney's office are going to be issuing an RFQ soon, in the next month or two, for their RFP, for their option. And you'll be hearing from Susan again about money request in next year's budget to contract with Barry Dunn to do their separate RFQ process.
Right.
Everyone's in agreement, that's what we've discussed, and there's no concerns about that? Cool.
They've run out of questions.
Just one last, I'm sorry. My name is on the front of this report. My email address is there. If you have any questions, please feel free. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, moving on to, oh no, excuse me. We are moving on to ARPA. No?
No. I thought we were talking about the ARPA, then the next one?
Okay.
All righty, thanks.
Sorry, I'm going off of a different program here, guys, and I was looking at the wrong spot. All right, so we are then adoption of resolution authorizing amendment for professional services. Okay?
No?
I thought in the amended agenda, we'd agreed to put ARPA after the Barry Dunn presentation. And this would then be the appropriate spot for that. All right. Sorry for the confusion, Kathy. The floor is yours. Board, you have questions for Kathy about ARPA. This is information only, chance to ask questions. Give us a report if you have information you'd like to share.
Besides the information that we put in the packet, we're working on the quarterly report that's due to the Department of Treasury by the end of the month. And we continue to update, the projects as they get completed, and we're continuing to work with all the agencies and departments on status of their payments and their reporting information and any amendments that we need to make to contracts, and looking at timelines. Yeah.
I know we'd been in discussion, talked about land bank stuff, and it looked like they were finally winding down, which is good news to hear. Board members, any questions? Jeff, go ahead.
I just do have just really a statement. And thank you for waiting all this time to be here. I am providing an update on related to the two veterans programs that we have on the ARPA project. One is the Stop the Violence, Healing Invisible Wounds by Robbie Walker and his team. They just finished their second Healing Invisible Wounds conference. And there's a third one scheduled for November 7th. And then the Veterans Stand Down by Cheryl Walker at the Army National Guard, which will be, the final stand down will be in September, on September 2nd. And I've asked both those individuals to come at the next county board meeting in August so they can discuss these two programs, since that will be before these two events. So if anybody has any challenge with that, let me know. But Kathy, I think if you could accommodate that, and they'll reach out to you to provide a brief update of where they are with the veterans programs. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Anybody else? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, it's a little broken record, Kathy. I've asked you before, but like on NextLink on the broadband, have they been in contact with you? What they're going to do when they didn't get state monies? Have they talked to you?
They've been in touch with Steve and Michelle and us,
Okay,
and myself
okay.
too, but on
Okay.
a revised proposal.
Okay. And then the EDC, the low hurdle grant program, doesn't look like that's moving any. Have they been talking to you?
Yes, so we got the signed contract, I think, at the end of June. So the agreement is signed, and then EDC is making their preparations to get the program started and getting enough staff situated or hired for that program. Yeah.
Okay, then the last one was Village of Royal on the water infrastructure. It doesn't look like is Royal moving on that, or?
Yeah, they are, and actually, they should have some more payments here in the next couple of months. There's been a few smaller payments in the past couple of months that haven't shown up on these financials yet. So it's just, in a few months, there should be a lot more progress on those.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Not seeing anybody else, Kathy. Thank you for sticking with us. All right, now moving on to new business. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of resolution number 2024-161, authorizing amendment to professional services agreement between Champaign County and Barry Dunn, McNeil, and Parker LLC? Motion by Lockshin, second by Mike Smith. Discussion, Jeff.
Thank you, County Executive. Couple clarifications. I support the extension of the contract. I have a pet peeve. And my pet peeve is the contract was scheduled to be completed by the end of May. 6 weeks later, an amendment is being asked. My question is, why couldn't that have not been accomplished either in May or the month prior?
Susan is moving to the mic as you speak.
What happened was Barry Dunn had a project that blew up, not in Louisiana, but in another location. Originally, we were going to make this presentation in June, and they were unable to do so because of the work that came up in another locale unexpectedly. The amendment is not to spend more money. It was just to extend the contract through the presentation. And that's why we did the amendment. It's not to get more money. It's just to make sure that the contract would last long enough for Alec and his team to be able to make the presentation. That's all.
All right, thank you. That was my follow-up question, which you anticipated so well. There's no additional cost. There's no additional effort other than the presentation tonight and the travel, et cetera. Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. All right, moving on. If there is no objection, can I get an omnibus motion to approve adoption of resolution 2024-162 authorizing payment of claims, adoption of resolution 2024-163 approving purchases not following purchasing policy? Motion by Stephanie, second by Mike. Discussion.
Just one quick question.
Go ahead, Jeff.
And my knowledge thing. So I don't understand why, or maybe someone could explain this to me later, since I think it's under the RPC purview versus the auditor's purview for accounts payable. Why is this so late on the invoice PO versus the paid date? Why is there 6+ months on this?
I will have to refer to RPC on that.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further questions, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-164, approving budget transfer BUA 2024-6/205, Fund 1080, General Corporate Department 22, county clerk, amount 70,000. Reason to transfer funds from the election judges line to the temporary staff line to cover pay for election judges that work more than one day. Motion by Samantha, second. Second by Eric. Try and pass it around. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by, call the roll. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lockchin.
Yes.
Michaels. Owen.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Rogers. Sexton. Smith. Storr.
Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Taylor. Thorsland.
Yes.
Fanich Theronot.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Cowart.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Farty.
I don't
Yes.
understand.
Furtado.
We have green
Yes.
meat,
Hanover Friedman.
smoked meat.
Yes.
Homemade.
Locke.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Anybody else come back? Rogers. All right.
We have 15 votes. Thank you. Motion passes. All right, can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-165, approving budget amendment BUA 2024/6/297, Fund 2060 RPC, Police Training Department, Department 100, Regional Planning Commission, increased appropriations $519,719, increased revenue $500,019,719. Reason appropriation required to continuation of police training program. Motion by Beth, second by Ed. Discussion. All in favor signify by, will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
Owen.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Rogers. Sexton. Smith. Storr. Straub.
Yes.
Taylor. Thorsland.
Indeed.
Fanich Theronot.
Yep.
Wilson.
Yes.
Cowart.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Farney.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Hanover Friedman.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Motion passes. Can I get a motion to approve?
Can I make a friendly motion?
Go ahead.
Hello. All of these are just transferring the same amounts of money to and from. Can we not make an omnibus out of these since they all require 15 votes, or is that going to be objected?
For that requires a roll call? I don't recall that. So it's a inviting idea, but I don't think I can do that. Okay. Make sure I'm in the correct place. All right. Yeah. Can I get a motion to approve adoption of resolution number 2024-166, approving budget amendment BUA 2024-6/424, Fund 2075, Regional Planning Commission, Department 100, Regional Planning Commission, increased appropriation $100,000, increased revenue $100,000, reason to appropriation of ARPA funds for the summer cooling program. Ellie, second by Samantha. Any discussion? Steph?
I just want to point out this money will run out next week. There will be no more money available in this program until October 1st. They've already served 156 homes.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lockshin.
Yes.
Owen.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Sexton. Smith.
Yes.
Store,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Benish Thiernot,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Farney,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Hanover Friedman,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on, can I get a motion to approve the adoption of resolution number 2024-167, approving budget amendment BUA 2024/7/5, Fund 1080, General Corporate, Department 40, Sheriff, increased appropriation $106,588.34, increased revenue $106,588.34, reason appropriation of grant funds from the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board for the reimbursement of body camera costs. Motion by JJ, second by Aaron. Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Lockshin,
Yes.
Owen,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yep.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Sexton, Smith,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Benish Thiernot,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Farney,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Hanover Friedman,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Motion passes. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-168, approving budget amendment BUA 2024-724, Fund 1080, General Corporate, Department 28, Information Technology, increased appropriation $6,930, increased revenue $6,930. Reason, Parkland College pays a portion of the IT intern's salary, and those funds need to be transferred to the temporary staff line. Motion by Eric, second by Lorraine. Just a quick comment, we have actually had a hire from an intern that we brought from Parkland, so I think it's a good idea to be able to, it's a good partnership. All right, will the clerk please call the roll?
Lockshin,
Yes.
Owen,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yep.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Sexton, Smith,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Benish Thiernot,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Farney,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Hanover Friedman,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Motion passes. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-169, granting authority to execute documents for the release of use restrictions? Motion by Leah, second by Eric. Discussion. Samantha?
I gotta use the bathroom, but is this the last, are we gonna vote on this? This, we don't need a vote, right? Oh, we do.
So while we're waiting, just for anybody who might be watching in hour 738 of this, it's really essential that we vote yes on this because once the paperwork's done, we need an answer within 2 days, and it takes at least 3 days to motion up a board meeting. So it's very essential that we vote on this to allow Steve the authority.
Aaron, go ahead.
Just
Sorry.
maybe this would be where parliamentary but should we just mention, it'd be appropriate to mention that it's been revised from what's in the packet to add the whole easement for accessing the lot. Or at least as a note for those maybe watching.
You're talking, referred to item K then? Sorry.
No, we have it was,
Okay. Oh, okay, I see. All right, thank you.
Completely unrelated to what we're discussing right now, but I apologize if anybody is hearing feedback coming from my head. My hearing aid keeps touching my glasses. I know Ellie could hear it, so I don't know if Samantha could hear it too. Like, if you're hearing mic feedback noises, it's my hearing aid. I'm sorry.
I'm not hearing anything, so, all right. All right, all in favor of approving item J, adoption of the resolution 2024-169 for executing documents and release of use restrictions, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve? Okay, excuse me. Would the ELEC chair like to take the next resolution, please?
All right, I move to approve Resolution 2024-I-70 to approve a revised intergovernmental agreement between the County of Champaign, the City of Champaign, the City of Urbana, and the Village of Savoy for a one-day IEP-sponsored household hazardous waste collection event.
Do you need a second? I'll second.
All right. We're giving Jenny the second. So John Hall is here if you have questions. This is a revised version of the agreement. We do this every year, and it's very popular.
Thank you for waiting, John. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-171, approving the appointment of election judges for the 2024-2026 term? Ms. Lakshan, and did you have your hand up? Oh,
I would.
it was a stab.
You
It
could
was a
use me.
stab.
I like election judges. I've been one. Yes, I move.
Jen Straub, Jen Locke. Motion in the second. Is there discussion on this? Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to vote no for this. I'm going to tell you why. First of all, I do like election judges and poll watchers, and my wife functioned as a poll watcher, and she enjoys it, actually. She learns quite a bit. However, this is my challenge, and my challenge is, and I have no problem stopping by the clerk's office and talking to him and to the clerk's deputy, which I'll make sure I get an appointment to do that. But here's my problem. My problem is really related to paragraph number 3 in the resolution. So in paragraph number 3 in the resolution, it states, whereas the county board is required at its July meeting, which is this one, to select and approve the proper ratio of candidates to serve as election judges in each election precinct from the certified list which has been filed with the county clerk. So this is talking about ratio, and I'm sure everyone here understands this, that if there are 5 election judges, what should be the breakout? 5 Democrats, 2 Republicans, no, 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats, or vice versa, right? Or if it's 3-1. So there's nothing in here that's been presented that gives me the confidence that the breakout will be that way at the polling locations. And why do I say that? Because in the primary election, 13 polling locations, which the clerk gave me the list prior, is, let's take the ARC. So the ARC, there were 3 Democrats and 1 Republican. I don't think that follows the guidelines. Fisher Community Building, 3 Democrats, 1 Republican. There actually was one precinct where there was a larger offset of Republicans versus Democrats. So 13 polling locations didn't follow the guideline. And now we have 66 polling locations, and I think about 37 are consolidated. So I'm not understanding, because I don't understand it, I don't understand what the clerk or how he's articulating whether there'll be 3-2, 2-1, there won't be 4 Democrats, 1 Republican, or, oh, I love the hands being raised up, and thank you for that response. So, but anyway, because of that, I'm going to vote no, because I don't have confidence based upon what happened in the primary that would happen in the general. Thank you.
Chair Carter.
If I can remember right, I think there was a shortage of Republican judges.
You respond to this? I don't know. Yes, there was. But whether there's a shortage or not, the statute requires either a 3 and a 2 or a 2 and a 1, not a 4 and a 1, if that makes sense to you.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Echoing what Chair Carter said, that it's not incumbent upon the clerk to make sure that there are enough Republican judges. Like that's, no, I'm not. I'm saying that the parties need to provide these lists, and all we're doing is saying that yes, we support these lists that have been provided by the parties. These are the people that they're putting forward. But also, if there aren't enough of one party in order to run the polling place, the ratios may not be perfect. As long as there is one Democrat and one Republican who can do the functions that are necessary to have somebody from each party, that polling place can stay open. I feel like if we adhere to very strict ratios, we're going to end up consolidating polling places further because we're not going to have enough people.
Further questions, comments? I thought Brett was going there at first. Jen, go ahead.
I just encourage both parties to work on recruiting more election judges so that we can ensure fair elections throughout our county.
All right, those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
No.
Okay, motion passes. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-172, establishing places of election for Champaign County for the 2024 general election? Motion by Lockshin, second by Lorraine. Comments, questions, discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion passes. All right, can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-175, approving amendment to contract with Burr and Russo Builders for County Plaza Renovation Project? Motion by Lockshin, second by Locke. All right, any discussion? Go ahead, JJ.
I was just wondering if anyone has any updates on the elevator situation. Have we heard anything lately?
It's not really good, no. They're still way behind schedule, still waiting on parts. So not good news, unfortunately. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Can I get a motion to approve adoption of Resolution 2024-176, approving amendment to contract with PJ Hoare, Inc. for County Jail Consolidation Project? Motion by Ed, second by Jenny again. Any discussion? That project is going quite swimmingly. They've switched over to working at the older portion of the jail now, so they're generally on time. All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Request to establish a DEIA task force. Can I get a motion to approve Resolution 2024-177, establishing a diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility task force? Motion by Jamala, second by Emily.
Point of order, point of order.
We do need to have an amendment. This does need to get amended.
You need to pick which version.
Well, we do need to pick which version, but do we need to get a motion from the floor to actually put names on item option B, because there are no names on that at this point. So the board doesn't even know what they're voting for.
So point of order, both of them need names. So I think step one is determining option A or option B of which one the board wants to move forward with, if they want to move forward with this. And once they've determined which option, then adding the names in a floor amendment and then voting on the resolution.
Chair Carter.
I would really like the opportunity to sit down and discuss this with Chair Rodriguez and Chair Taylor, if that is at all possible.
At this point, it likely is not. It's before the board, unfortunately.
Okay. But that process did not happen.
I sent an email to you last Friday asking you to share those names in the hopes that there could be some of those discussions, and so that we could actually put names on option B, so that it would be a full amendment on the floor.
You did that on Monday. Can you just
No, I did that
make sure?
Friday. I sent that last Friday to you. We clearly do need a parliamentarian.
We do.
I will say that
We
much.
do.
But I will say, obviously, the distinction between options A and B are basically whether it's by subcommittee or as a special committee of the full board. So honestly, I think I was out of line in terms of saying that we needed to go ahead and place those names at this point in time. So we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Brad.
Thank you. How am I going to put this? If there's a way to diffuse this at all, I would like to see both possibilities, the special committee and the subcommittee. I don't know. Anyway, both have time, because I believe the subcommittee still has persons they may or may not have confirmed. The special committee is still trying to put actual persons on their resolution also. And maybe to diffuse this a little bit, I would like to make a motion to table this until next full board, so that both actually get a chance. We get both full proposals, and then from that point, we can just let it go. Let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to table.
Have a discussion to that or no?
We can discuss it.
Okay. So maybe I just need more education, and I appreciate all the people that are here. I'm sure you're eager to educate me. My question is, from a process standpoint, why does this not go through the committee of the whole first and then come to the board? Or that's what I'm trying to understand. Help me with that one.
Because there was no committee of the whole this month.
I got that. So from a sense of urgency standpoint, I'm not sure how urgent this is on all the things that are urgent. Why wouldn't it go through the committee of the whole in August then? That's my question.
Michelle.
So I guess I'd say there's no sense of urgency. This isn't being rushed. The request from the original letter was simply to create a temporary task force to write a request for a proposal for us to contract with a DEI committee. The request for this event is not to do DEI. It is not to implement DEI. It's not to investigate it. It's not to research it. It's to write a request, an RFP, for us to get a professional company in here to do an analysis and give us a plan going forward. So it's a much narrow, smaller task than I think some people are envisioning. And the goal would be to have that RFP ready to go by the end of the year, so that if the public safety sales tax passes, then immediately in January, we can release the RFP, begin evaluating companies, and have some potential next steps by early spring of next year. So it's not doing DEI. It is just the RFP to get a professional in here to help us.
Stephanie.
To the point of timing, the reason we wanted it to be voted on is that if we do go, if the board, we need to know if the board is going to want to do this or not, because then we'll budget for it in August. So the idea was in July, we would find out, does the board want to do this at all? because, as Michelle said, we would then be hiring a firm. And that would be something that would be nice to know. Not necessary, it's not, the world won't fall down if we don't know, but it would be nice to know, because it's going to be, it's going to cost some money, going in. So that's why.
Samantha?
Yeah, I was feeling rushed, and that's what I'm just honestly going to share with the board, that this process was feeling rushed. It should be intentional. The members of this task force or this special committee should be intentional members. They should have prior conversation before we authorize their submission on this committee. I was also wanting to point out that $45 per meeting would be considered the least amount per diem. Is there a reason why? Why it says that?
We've
The
had
county board members and county employees receive a per diem of $45 per meeting.
The question was whether or not we would even have a per diem. The idea was by putting a per diem in effect, it would make it easier for some people to be able to participate on the committee. And we also have to look at how much money we have available. Michelle?
Yeah, the $45 is already established by board resolution for special committees, subcommittees, and any other non-county board meeting that we have. So the $45 applies to you all when you attend those things, and so that's the amount that we chose because we are essentially bound to that by previous resolution.
Go ahead. You're next, Janet.
So we're still on the question of whether to table it, and I don't want to table this at this time because it's not been that long since our last meeting that went for hours because the community came out and said that this is a priority. But
Just a
may
second.
I finish?
Jen?
There's no more conversation.
No, that's called a question.
I'm
still
discussing your
discussing
motion
this.
to table, Brett.
You what?
I'm discussing Brett's motion to table it. I'm discussing that fact right now. And why
does-
I am in opposition
She
to
does
that.
get to continue, Lorraine. She had started to speak. She gets the opportunity to finish.
I support moving this forward so we can start doing the work sooner than later. Once an RFP goes out at a later time and we get a report on how to implement DEI, then I also would support a different, not the same, a different task force for the implementation. So I support us voting forward on this, or still voting on this today, so we can get the ball rolling sooner and start showing appreciation to all of the people that have been feeling left behind sooner. So that's why I'm going to oppose the motion
So
to table.
you're not recognizing a table? When somebody table an item, you're not recognizing it?
We're simply still having discussion, Lorraine. You've got the motion to table and you've got a second to table. The motion to table, I don't know, really requires,
I'll call the question.
okay? All in favor of Brett's motion to table, signify by, no, let's better do a roll call, because otherwise, no, we're not.
Roll call.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lokshin.
No.
Owen.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
No.
Rogers.
Yes.
Sexton. Smith.
No.
Storr.
Yes.
Straub.
No.
Taylor.
No.
Thorsland.
No.
Benich Thiernot.
No.
Wilson.
Yes.
Cowart. Esri.
No.
Farney.
No.
Furtado. Hanauer Friedman.
No.
Locke.
No.
Carter.
Yes.
Did I count 9 affirmative votes on that?
I have 8 and 12.
Okay. Motion fails. Mr. Farney.
Since no one chose an option, I would like to make a motion that we use option A on Resolution 2024-177. And we insert the names included in the memo from the Director of Administration dated July 12, 2024.
Emily is the second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Carter.
So just getting back to my previous conversation that I brought up through communications, this was deliberately to keep the chair out. Numerous times before the public and in private, I have mentioned DEIA, and no one was interested. No one spoke on that behalf. And then so we're moving forward. We're pushing something forward, and it has not been thought out. I think there should still be discussions on the members that are requested. And yeah, this is really sad that we're pushing this through. So thank you.
Just as something of information from the chair, you're not the first person that has brought up DEIA, not by years. We've had members of this board that have talked about this absolutely for years. It was brought up in the original Gallagher report at a very low level with no action taken. But at that point, there were multiple pieces on this board that discussed the need to move forward with that. Brett.
Thank you. It seems that the really impetus of what has happened is a few months ago, a whole bunch of people came in here for public participation, to the effect that we do not have many minorities, subcontractors, contractors, or employees working on our jail and or the plaza building. And it seems to come out from there because before then, never came up. And then boom, it happened. That's all I had to say. Thank you. Have a great day.
Brett, you and I have had multiple discussions about participation of minorities on our projects. We've exchanged information. You know what data is out there.
I'm sorry, African American, Latinx, or other people like that. Excuse me, because the data does not break it down.
If you would have liked to look farther at the data, I think you probably could have pulled that information. Stephanie.
I did ask you multiple times. I asked Jenny actually this question too.
You do not have the floor.
Other people
You
have
do not
asked
have
this
the
question
floor.
too.
You do not
and
have
you
the
do
floor.
I got a question. I thought if 2 votes tabled the vote that it wouldn't go past. It doesn't pass. It doesn't move forward. Is that not correct? No. If 2 people, you sure? Please explain this
Point
to
of
me.
information, as somebody who teaches Robert's Rules of Order for a living, Lorraine is correct. If the vote is to table it, it ends discussion. But it ends discussion and then there's a vote to table. The vote to table failed, and so now we're discussing it. That is what Robert's Rules of Order say. And to JJ's point, we need a parliamentarian because while I do be a parliamentarian for my work, I'm not getting paid to do it here. So yes, Lorraine was correct. If somebody calls, if the question is to table it, it's immediate vote, and it failed. So now we're discussing it.
Leah.
To the chair's point about this being rushed so that she doesn't have any participation in it, I just want to remind the board and her that per board rules, per, I think, statute, she is an ex officio member of all special committees and all subcommittees. Thank you.
Stephanie again.
Fine. I vote to amend the list to put Samantha Carter ex officio member. I mean, you're ex officio member of every single meeting already, but yeah.
And if I'm
For a second. Recognizes the second. We have a motion and a second for that amendment. All in favor of that amendment to this, please signify by saying, I'm sorry, go ahead. Dr. Story did, sorry. That was a motion to amend.
Samantha Carter, ex officio member.
Well, we have a motion and a second right now, so this is to, all right, well, what is your question? This, actually, we're voting on it, so if you have a question pursuant to it, you need to ask the question now, really.
So as we move along, will we be able to add members to our task force? So these are questions that should have been had in the meeting that was had that I was excluded from. But I want to know, are these names like going to move forward versus if someone wants to be added later, will we have that ability to amend that list of participants?
This amendment would include the list of people that were already noted in JJ's resolution.
But we don't know if they...
Yes, we do, actually. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yes, if you wanted to add people to the whichever version you choose, the board would just do another resolution like this and add the people to whichever version you choose. And that's a standard Robert's Rules process.
Emily.
I just want to note, this names a chair, and that's Ms. Rogers. She would be driving. If there's a consideration for who to add, she would be the first voice heard, and then bring that to the board and approve. I believe that's correct, yes?
I mean, I think respectfully, the board would want the opinion of the chair before
Yes.
putting someone on their committee. So,
Absolutely.
But yes.
Great, thank you.
Brett.
Question then is, we got the list last Friday and it was said these people may or may not be confirmed. Do we know who has confirmed yet?
We do have a list of people that have confirmed, yeah.
Well, that list said it was unknown. So all those people have confirmed now? Is that the correct answer?
I don't believe all of them have confirmed at this point.
Can we know who has and hasn't? I mean, is that something we can ask, though? Because that was a list of
Could you use
people.
the microphone if you're
Sorry.
making statements? Because
Sorry.
those are not getting
I've
recorded.
made phone calls to some of those people on the list, and they have not been contacted.
I'm sorry,
So that's why I feel
do
like
not
it's
hear
been...
well. I really would appreciate
I'm sorry,
using the
but instead
microphone.
of breathing hard, let me know that, Jen. I didn't realize
Point
you
of
couldn't hear
order,
me.
the question on the floor is to add Chair Carter as an ex officio member. We need to answer that question, vote on it, and then we can debate further people to add to my original motion.
Thank you, JJ. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion, the amended motion is still before the floor, but it is amended at this point to add Chair Carter as an ex officio member, which she was anyway.
So
now
just a point of clarification for me, maybe, I apologize, I've been up since 5:30, so I think what we're voting for is whether Samantha should be added as ex officio. That's the only thing we're voting on?
We actually voted on that. Yeah.
I am so
Yeah,
tired.
I've been up since
apologize.
5 too, Jeff, so I feel your pain. But yet, we did pass that. That is amended to add Chair Carter as an ex officio member. So now we have the resolution. Yes, option A. Brett, are you?
So still for option A of the members, who's confirmed and who's not confirmed so far? From the list
Do you
that
want
was
me to
given.
read that, or does everybody have that on their desk, or no?
I have a list
Nobody
of,
has
I
it on
have a
their
list
desk,
of
just me?
names. I don't know who's confirmed or not confirmed.
But I'm really bad at reading names. Yeah, you want to read it? All right.
Nothing better to do.
These have not replied yet.
So do you want the list of those who have not replied first, or the list of who have confirmed first? How about just the list of who have not? Okay, so out of the list in the proposed amendment that is currently on the floor, those who have affirmed, we have...
No, I thought she said not, because that's going to be
Oh,
shorter.
not, okay. So everyone has confirmed except the following. Leo Alexander II, third, Rachel Joy, Minnie Pearson, and Lucia Maldonado. Everyone else on that list has confirmed that yes, they would be interested in participating.
Okay, I just don't have a list like that in front of me, so that's why I was asking, so.
Page 99 and 100.
I don't have this part.
Yeah, me either. I don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah, it's-
Jim Locke.
I'm sorry, I don't have this sheet, so I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't. I have the floor right now. I just want to make sure, like, Brett, I didn't have that in front of me either, so thank you for asking. I am going to move to amend to strike Leo Alexander, Rachel Joy, Minnie Pearson, and Lucia Maldonado from the very recently amended option A, so that we have a representative option A with the members, all of the members listed on pages 99 and 100, minus Leo Alexander, Rachel Joy, Minnie Pearson, and Lucia Maldonado, who are welcome, but since they haven't confirmed, we shouldn't consider forming a committee with volunteering them without their confirmation.
I believe offer has been extended. We have, Stephanie, go ahead and speak to that.
My suggestion is, and I hear what you're saying, however, I think, though, in particular, those 4 people are, the reason that Dr. Alexander was included, because it's somebody who works in the field of HR and could speak to that. The reason that Ms. Pearson is because she's the president of the NAACP. The reason that Rachel Joy was included is because, just to be blunt, Champaign is way, way further ahead of us than. So what my recommendation is that we pass this resolution, as JJ suggested, with the amendment of Samantha, with the sentence that any not confirmed individuals, that the task force will have the opportunity to recruit individuals from the organizations that are listed if the named individual cannot participate. Do you see what I'm saying? So because those roles in our community, and I'm sorry, I know I skipped one of them, I think are very,
Lucia
very important
Maldonado.
for this task force. And so, and we've actually done this before. We've had task forces where not every single person was confirmed. So if we could say, for any, just amend it to say any non-confirmed individual, recognizing the importance of their community, their institution's community roles, the task force can then reach out to a substitute participant.
In light of that, I would withdraw my motion because I absolutely want each one of those people on here. I just didn't want to volunteer them, but I withdraw if we make that the
Leah.
motion.
The question that you had asked, or the statement that you had was like one that I had asked Michelle about the other day. And she kind of gave me the answer that you said a little bit, but less complicated. You need to use your microphone.
Sorry, it was on, it just wasn't pointing at me. I think just if we formalize it in the vote.
I hear what you're saying, but that sounds really complex. Typically in the past, as far as I know, every time in the past with subcommittees and special committees and task forces, is that we have our list of people. If not all of them have confirmed by the time we do the resolution, they just stay on it. If they decide not to do it, the chair of the subcommittee, with the advice and consent of the subcommittee and then the advice and consent of the board, will replace that person. Otherwise, it's not like they're drawing a salary. There's no, per diem for them or anything like that. Yeah, so, and then when they would do that, we would have to do a resolution. It just seems easier to kind of keep the old. I mean, I can't imagine that they wouldn't say okay to somebody else from the same organization. You know what I mean? Okay, sorry. Thank you.
We are back at Chair Carter. No, I'm getting tired, dear.
I got it. Thank you. So, just, I want to put it out there. Option A, as a subcommittee, can anybody answer this question? How many task force has come through subcommittees through the county? I really would like to know an answer to that.
You'd have to go back into board history. You'd have to go back and look at what previous
None
boards have
that I
done.
remember. None that I remember.
So my point that I was bringing to the board was that this was set up so that I wouldn't have any, I guess, opinion on what moving forward with the DEIA special committee, because in the wording of the county board rules, it says these are my duties. I can appoint and assign. And so it's so odd that, that we're going to come to Emily Rodriguez's defense and Leah Taylor's defense as why they should be subcommittees. But we clearly know that under the board rules, it says the chair has the authority to assemble and form special committees. And so that's what I want to point out to those that came, those that are watching, that this was set up as two different options, where in the past, from my research, I didn't find any other committees that were passed like this, any other task force. The broadband task force wasn't brought through like this as a subcommittee. So those are the things that I want to point out. Thank you.
You have two options, because I wanted to ensure that the board here was making the choice. When I sent out that initial letter, you were at the very front of the letter, Samantha. You were included in trying to put together this committee.
And the two did not answer for 2 weeks, Steve.
Actually,
And
no,
it sat for 2
that's
weeks,
actually
and neither
not
one
true.
of them responded.
That's actually,
anyway,
that's not true. Leah Taylor did speak and did give her preference on when she would be able to attend.
And it wasn't communicated to the chair. And that's proper ways of communicating. Anytime Leah Taylor has sent me an email, she has gotten a response. I didn't go and tell Michelle. So let's put it out there. This is how you all are deciding to communicate and leave Chair Carter out. So let's be real. It is what it is. No other email chain, and if I'm lying, please send it to me tomorrow. Any other email that has went out from the board and is sat still for 2 weeks with no response.
Again, it was not
emails?
2 weeks
But
with
then
no
we're
response.
pushing to make this DEIA task force under these two people, one that's leaving the board in December and the other one that barely comes to meetings.
That's enough. Sorry.
We got to keep it to, we got to be truthful and factual, because what I'm trying to figure out is what were Steve's intentions when he sent that email out.
I told you what
That's what I
intentions
wanted
were.
to see.
I told you what the intentions were. They were very clear. They were.
Didn't follow up for 2 weeks, and then you expected me to keep my schedule open for 2 weeks.
That's
I call the question.
simply not true.
I call the question, it's done.
Okay.
What calling the question does.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Lokshin.
Can I get clarification? We're voting on option A with the listed names.
It's my understanding we are voting on Stephanie Furtado's amendment.
Nobody seconded
seconded?
that.
Okay.
Sorry, Matt.
Yes.
Okay. Lokshin. Owen.
Yes.
Pugh.
Nope.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Sexton. Smith.
Yes.
Storr.
Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland.
Yes.
Vanich Theorenot.
Yes.
Wilson.
No.
Coert.
No.
Esri.
Yes.
Farney.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Hanauer Friedman.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Carter.
No.
Motion passes. Can I get a motion to approve adoption of Resolution 2024-178, placing the question of elimination of the office of the county auditor on the November 5th, 2024 general election ballot? Motion by Farney, second by Jen Straub. Discussion. Stephanie.
I just have one piece of information, and I'm not going to belabor the point, and I won't begrudge anybody how they vote. I just wanted to tell you this. I found out recently that our current elected officer, on a call at the end of June, asked for how to log in to the system where we put in all of the financial data for our external audit. His deputy has left, and so he needed to be able to log in order to log into the system where we put in the data. If you want to look at the data, I want to point out that we had the same company last year. I don't want to speculate about whether he just didn't log in at all. But if the argument that you're trying to make is that we have to keep the position of the auditor because it's somehow instrumental in the external audit, it's just simply not the case. And somehow we've continued to get external audits, and so I would posit it that the role is just simply not needed.
Chair Carter.
I just think that that was just so deflammatory because we don't have any proof of what you just made public. We don't know that for sure. So I just feel like that shouldn't even been said, you know, but this is a campaign against the auditor. My point of view is that we should keep the auditor's position. If we're going to have a question, an argument, I would move to eliminate the executive, one of two positions in the state versus one of 16 to 18 auditors position in the state of Illinois. Thank you.
Point of information. The executive position was created by vote. We cannot abolish it. We can put it on the ballot to rescind it.
We can't.
No,
can't?
after you have,
signatures.
I
We have to have
think it's about
That's fine.
3,600 signatures at this point. Mr. Farney.
While we've been sitting here at the board meeting, we received, all of us via email, from former board member Mary King, an email. This is at 7:06 p.m. She says, to the Champaign County Board, it's amazing to me that I even be writing this email, but the county auditor, who I assume was present in his office at Brookings this afternoon, decided to spend time having a flame war on Facebook with members of the public. This included repeatedly implying that Ms. Rodriguez was not a resident of District 8 and that she needed to prove where she is living. Is this what our county dollars are paying for? Does the auditor have no actual work to do on a Thursday afternoon? And she continues with screenshots of the Facebook conversation, which, from looking at the time of her email and what the screenshots show, would put it in the middle of the workday. These screenshots are even time-stamped to this evening, so it's clear the posts were made during regular work hours. I've also included a direct link to the original Facebook post, so we can all see this for ourselves. Between that, the email that we were given tonight shows that on Monday, July 15th at 2:08 p.m., work hours. I'm really wondering what I did for 5.5, 6 years in that office, because I didn't have time to get into arguments on Facebook with people. I didn't have time to go and try to find out where board members lived. I was doing my job. It's obvious that the current occupant of this office has way too much free time. And so at our last meeting, I asked administration to come up with a plan. They have done that in great detail. They have showed where there's savings that can possibly happen. They have a plan for a finance department, which I like the direction this is heading. And so last month, I was not sure I was ready to vote yes on this. I'm going to vote yes to put this on the ballot. I've also talked with constituents in my district almost all of them say the same thing, even though they have known me for years. We have an auditor, okay? The public doesn't realize we have an auditor, quite honestly. The public also doesn't know why we have to have partisan auditors, and to many, why we have a partisan county board. Those are things that we can address through the legislature, and we should. I am going to support letting the voters have their say on this. I think it's best that we let the voters decide how their government operates, and so tonight I will be supporting this.
Brett.
Thank you. We actually already have a process that lets the voters decide this. We had a primary. The Dems didn't run anybody against them. The Republicans right now have somebody running against them in the general. I'm saying, you know what? Republicans are right there. Throw your weight behind them. Got some Dems right here. Throw your weight behind them. Give him some money. Knock on doors for him. You know? Let him win. Get George out that way. That way we still have an elected official. That's the hard way. It's hard, especially in a Democratic county, but you know, we already have a process. Let's use it.
Ellie.
I just want to thank the administration for the detailed plan for the revamped finance department. That's exactly what we needed to see, I think, to be able to make this decision. And also just a reminder that we're not voting to eliminate a position, we're voting to put it on the ballot so that our constituents can have a say. Based on everything I've seen, yes, I will be supporting putting this on the ballot. I think that this administrative plan for a finance department makes a lot of sense. And it's good to know that we would have a plan in place if the voters decide to go in that direction.
Will the clerk please call the roll? I'm sorry. Jamala.
Thank you. I did not support this in December when it was first brought to us, but like a lot of other people on the board, I am very disturbed by Mr. Danos's behavior. I think that his actions are inappropriate. I don't think that it was right for him to email Ms. Rodriguez's landlord. I don't think that it's appropriate for him to be letting the citizens of Champaign County and the world know whether or not she voted during the primary. I do appreciate the administration putting forth a plan so that we know what we will do as a county if the voters decide that they do want to eliminate this position. So I am a yes.
Mr. Thorsland.
Yeah, like Jamala in December, and also like the coroner's office, I wasn't in favor of putting something on the ballot to let the voters decide, despite the fact that, like Mr. Farney says, George is our problem, and he is a problem, and he continues to be a problem, and he's apparently not learning that he's a problem, and I hoped during those discussions then they would take it upon himself to be a better person, a better auditor, a better boss of people. We need that office. We need those people. He has not risen to the occasion. He's maybe sunk lower than his starting position, which was not high to begin with. And if you're listening, George, and I know you are, I'm super disappointed. And you are a problem. Separating the person in the office now with the idea of having the office has been something I've dwelled upon. You know, we're going to let the voters decide to get rid of the office. We're putting this out there in part because we've done things like this before, the recorder. We've discussed it, the coroner. I want to make sure we're not doing it because the current person in the office is not doing the job well. I worry about appointed people. This isn't really an appointment process, but if you remember, we had an appointed treasurer for a while there that gave us all a really wonderfully hard time, and we're still recovering from that. So I worry about that.
because you tend to narrow the field to people that only a small group want to appoint. But at this point, I think I'm going to support letting the voters weigh in on this. And because we have an exit plan now, should they decide to eliminate the office. And in the end, besides blaming everyone who votes yes for this, we can also blame the current occupant of the office for getting us into a position where we're even discussing it. And I feel bad about that, but that's where we are.
Don.
Yeah, I appreciate you laying that out, Eric, because it shortens my my remarks. I really don't think that eliminating an elected office is the way we should be handling a problematic elected official. And I get, we don't have any other choice, right? We've issued a censure that clearly did not change behavior. I really think that it's like you have a problem employee, and rather than dealing with that employee through progressive discipline or through annual evaluation, you eliminate their job, and you say, that's got rid of them that way. I don't think it's effective. I don't think it's smart. And at the same time, it's just the stuff tonight is like, it's so offensive that I do think that the voters need to have multiple options in terms of this position and maybe the direction of the county for finance. So I will be voting yes to put it on the ballot for the voters.
Jen Locke.
Back in December, I was in the group that voted no on putting this on the ballot because I have a philosophical belief that an independent auditor is necessary. It's what prevents fraud, just the presence of it. And in a perfect world, that's what we have. But we don't live in a perfect world, clearly. We're all here. We've been here all night. We know it's not perfect. We've lived through the last week. We know it's not perfect. However, I've struggled. I've struggled with it because taking this protection away, we don't have protection, but just because we have a bad employee doesn't mean that we won't have it. But I've heard from constituents saying absolutely keep him, and I've heard from constituents saying get rid of him, and I don't have the power to do either. We have the power to put it on the ballot, and I think that we should let the voters decide. This is making news all over, and I've come around to it's a choice for the voters. How I might vote might be different than y'all come November, but I've come around on it, and now I'll be supporting putting it on the ballot.
Jenny.
I will support putting this on the ballot, but I'll be brief. I just want to reiterate that this, even putting aside the abhorrent behavior of the current auditor, this plan lays out ways that we can have safeguards. We are not required by statute to have this position. All we are doing is saying, do you want this position to remain an elected position in the county? I know we've said that. I appreciate that we are also giving voters the option on the ballot with, now that you have somebody slated on the Republican side as well, there will be so many options. There will be a lot for voters to take in, and I appreciate that we are giving them those choices, and that belongs with them.
Ellie.
Just a quick response to some of the other comments. I completely agree that you don't want to get rid of, change the structure because of one problematic employee, but I think sometimes one problematic employee can really shed light on existing structural problems, and I think that this is one of those cases. So, thank you.
Jeff.
Thank you, and thank you for the discussion tonight. I'm going to vote no, and I'm going to tell you why. I believe the voters had already at one time, what year was it when this was on the ballot? I don't remember. Was that on the ballot before? Okay.
I believe it was 2011.
And what did the voters say then?
Well, it obviously didn't pass.
Okay, I guess that's my point. At one time, we did ask the voters to decide, and they made a decision, and now we have new revelations, so we could ask them to decide again. But I agree with all the comments about the egregious, dark behavior that the current office holder has done. And my heart goes out to Emily and all those that are hurt by it. I agree with Mr. Pugh that the voters are also deciding because there's an election. I'm sticking with the principle that this is an elected office. We're in the middle of an election. We're in the middle of election. If it's 2 years down the road or a year down the road and we're not in the middle of an election and then we can decide what the right process is, then I could understand that. But since we're in the middle of election, I just think it's not just or right for those that are seeking the office because it's election season. I absolutely appreciate Michelle Jett and her efforts on trying to organize what needs to be done or how it can be done. And I agree with Emily that sometimes a problem can give us other solutions. But still, right now, we're in the midst of an election. And I don't think that it's right to pull that plug. So I'm going to vote no, and that's why I'm voting no.
All right, you just did speak, Jenny. Samantha, you've spoken several times. Go ahead, please. Just try and
I'm
make
going to
it fair,
agree
Samantha.
with Jeff Wilson, Brett Pugh. This is an elected position. How do we take that right away from the voters? I just think it's wrong. I think people have put time and effort for their campaign to run and be on the ballot, and then to say, oh, you know what, we may just eliminate this position. One thing that you guys don't realize, there is a lot of clash of personalities. Can I say George Dano is 100% right in everything he does? No. Can I say Executive Stummers has been correct, him and Michelle, in everything that they've done? No. But you're battling two strong personalities that will not admit fault. You know, so that is a lot of our problem right here. And I do not think that should be a position that the the executive should be able to appoint. I think it should be always given the rights to the voters to choose, right? And having this appointed position, you're taking the right away from voters. So I will be voting no for this tonight. Thank you.
Jenny.
Just a very quick point to Mr. Wilson's comments. 2010 is 14 years ago. There are people who want to vote now who didn't have a say 14 years ago. I moved to the county in 2010. I think I still voted out because I moved here the week before November. Yeah, you know, electorates change, county residents change, situations change. Even people here tonight have said they've changed their mind. I think it's healthy to be able to put things on the ballot more than once and let people have that choice.
Go ahead, Beth.
I'm hearing a lot about this taking choices away from voters. The election is still going to occur. Both of these are going to be on the ballot. People are still going to be running for the office, and this is going to be an option for them to vote for, as well as vote for who they would want in it. So if you vote no on this resolution, and you vote for your preferred candidate, and that resolution goes down, that preferred candidate wins, you still have what you wanted. This is not an either-or situation, this is a both-and situation. Nobody's taking choices away from voters, you're giving them another choice. Say, okay, if we're gonna have an auditor, vote for one of these guys. Do you want to have an auditor? Yes or no? So each side gets a say. If they want an auditor and they vote for the auditor, they've had their say. If they don't want an auditor and they vote for the auditor, they've had their say. Nobody is taking anything away.
Brett.
Thank you. Just to be clear, we're voting on the resolution right here on this page, correct? I do have a issue with a question. The savings of approximately $150,000. That's a possibility. It looks like that from what we're doing right now. But I also didn't notice there will be the outside auditor will be actually using more of their time. It'll probably cost that more money. It will not. So they're giving their time for free? I'm sorry?
He doesn't perform the outside audit.
No.
We always have to have an outside audit firm.
We have an audit committee with an outside auditor that'll be weighing in on stuff. I'm assuming that's costing extra money? Or?
Brett, if you're positing a question, I think Stephanie has an answer.
So right now, as part of the outside audit, there's regular updates from the outside audit to a group of people, including the auditor, that's like on a phone call. And instead of that happening, the outside auditor would talk to this committee. So there would be no more work. They would
Okay.
just be
No.
doing the same amount of updates, just to different group of folks.
No, thank you. I just have a real problem with $150,000 because that may change one way or the other. And I just don't like that being on the question, is what I'm trying to say.
Michelle, you have something to add?
I just want to clarify on the language around appointing this position, because I think it's very important. The executive is not just free-for-all appointing this position. It's an appointment with the advice and consent of the board, and it's a professional appointment like our highway engineer, our planning and zoning director, our supervisor of assessment. So in terms of, those concerns, it's really going to truly then become you all's decision as to who is operating in that director of finance position. It's not something that is going to be given to you to deal with.
Eric?
I'm calling the question. It's late enough and we've talked enough.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lokshin.
Yes.
Owen.
Yes.
Pugh.
Nope.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Sexton. Smith.
Yes.
Storr.
Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland.
Yes.
Fenich Theronot.
Yes.
Wilson.
No.
Cowart.
No.
Esri.
No.
Farney.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Hanauer Friedman.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. I just got, it's late. I meant to say no. Y'all know I meant to say no. Okay, I'm just sleepy. No.
Motion passes. All right, other business, applications for open appointments. Application for open appointments is included in the packet. Decennial reports are available on the county's website for Mass Transit District, Joint East Bend Township and Road District, and Joint St. Joseph Township and Road District. So we have no further business. We are adjourned. Oh, that's right.